Yes, people, welcome to another edition of the ManDem United podcast on Sarcasm City TV, hosted by myself, Flawless Mr. Take Note, also joined by my fellow co-host, JV. JV, first and foremost, what you saying? You good?
Yo, I'm good, man. Good. You know what I'm saying? Still top of the league. You know what I'm saying?
Top of the league. Top of the league. Yeah, you lot are devastated about that. You know what I'm saying? Rival fans are ready for us to not be top of the league. And it's 19th of January and we're still top of the league. At least until tomorrow. If we win tomorrow, I think we still stay top of the league in it. So everybody inject everybody's tears. You know what I'm saying? And that rival fans on social media are devastated, absolutely devastated. But as always, we appreciate the support regarding the podcast and everything Sarcasm City TV. We are now just under 200 subscribers away from 2,000 subs. So we're literally just under 200. So make sure on your way into the video, like the video if you're watching on YouTube, share it and subscribe to the channel Sarcasm City TV. You can see it across the bottom right there. Subscribe to Sarcasm City TV. And when you subscribe, make sure you hit the notification bell. Also, if you're watching on Twitter via my Periscope, make sure you retweet the tweet, like the tweet, and then get over to YouTube and then give us a subscribe, and then you can go back to Periscope. Some people prefer to watch on Periscope. If you're watching on Facebook right now, the exact same thing. Make sure you do that. But all right, I've got to introduce the special guest, because we keep hitting you lot with great special guests and great lineups. I keep saying this on every show I'm on a daily basis on Sarcasm City TV, how we are producing better lineups on a daily basis than your barber, because barbers are shut. You know what I'm saying? Where are you seeing better lineups on a daily basis? This guy is one of the most respected journalists, one of the most knowledgeable footballing people. Like, when he talks, I just shut up and listen. You know what I'm saying? And that, like, mama have to start calling him Reverend Rob. You know what I'm saying? Welcoming Rob to the show. You know what I'm saying?
What an intro. Rob. What an intro.
You like the intro? I'm good, man. First and foremost, thank you for coming on. We appreciate it a lot. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Happy to be here, mate. Happy to be here.
Yeah, man. Excellent. And I'm loving the attire as well, man. Like JV said beforehand, dressed for the occasion. Rob Beaton's dressed for the occasion. I love it. Excellent.
This is how I get out of bed. I always say this.
Yeah, man. Isn't it? Regular stuff. But yeah, of course, the video is entitled Good Point or Bad Point at Anfield. Did Ollie get it wrong? Did Ollie get it right? And as always with Manchester United, Ollie's always a talking point. Manchester United, win, lose or draw, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is always a talking point. So we'll get that start. So we'll go to Europe. What are your thoughts on the game? Like, what did you think of the lineup when you first seen it? What was you thinking of Ollie's subs and how it played out? And what was your final thoughts in the end immediately after? And has that changed now? A few days have passed.
No, I like the lineup, and I thought the lineup was the right one for the job. And you've got to remember, right? I know a lot of people gave me stick for this in the reactions afterwards. And I said that it was really up to Liverpool to go and win that game. Liverpool are the champions. Liverpool needed 3 points. Liverpool are trailing. Manchester United are top of the league. This is the same scenario we used to have when we had Fergie. When we were winning titles, I've been lucky enough to see 13 of them, with my own eyes, straight up. And these were the games that when you went to Anfield, you went there not to lose. It wasn't regressive. It wasn't about saying, we're not good enough or we're afraid of Liverpool, any of those things. It's about the result. United got a draw. They probably should have won it. They had the two best chances of the game. I don't remember David De Gea having a lot to do. One or two little saves here or there. The tactics were the right tactics against an elite strike force who are not really ticking at the moment. It was good. It was a good point. Ole got it right. United in a great position.
Okay, and JV, actually, me and him spoke from a Third Eye View on Pi Radio yesterday, and he was saying a similar thing. This is why he was nodding when you started and said that it's on Liverpool to win the game. So for those that have not heard it, JV, give your thoughts also on the game and how it went.
I pretty much echo what Rob's just said in regards to Liverpool being... This is the superior team, we're told. You know what I mean? We've been told for a year or two, this is the best team in Premier League history, people have tried to tell me. You know what I mean? And then you're trying to tell me that can't beat, not arguably, well, it is Manchester United's. No, arguably. We'll say arguably now, because I say it's better than this. I'd say arguably Manchester United's worst manager in the Premier League history. So if you match those two up, and we say them two are going to play in a match, there should only be one winner. Do you get what I mean? And that's why even though they had Van Dijk out and not another, I'm only going to count Van Dijk because for me, Fabinho, someone who's played defense before, maybe not centre back, he's played right. He started off as a right back, so he's a defender. Do you get what I'm saying? He started off his career as a defender. It's not the same as Henderson playing there. Do you get what I mean? It's not the same. So for me, I'd say that if Van Dijk's in that team, I'd say that's their first strength team. That is their first strength team. If Van Dijk's in there, that's Liverpool's first strength 11. So, you know, the whole fact that we didn't actually bother them in defence as well makes that argument invalid. Oh, we didn't even have our two, but we didn't bother you anyway, and you still didn't do us anything. That's how I'm seeing it. That's how I literally see it. They are supposed to be the better team with the better players. Yes, we are in form, but, you know, they have the better manager. You know, they are such a dangerous team. And we have actually, if you really look at it, we've come out of there with a point. Yeah. We've came out of there with a point. We've came out of there still on top. We've came out of there with our next game being Fulham, where we could then potentially re-increase the gap. And then it's up to them to catch up again. So I'd say that's now I'm reflecting on it, like how you just asked Rob, has it changed since the match? Yeah, because I was quite wound up because we did have those chances at the end, towards the end of the game. I didn't like to see Lindelof in there, but when I really look at it, he wasn't really troubled either. So yeah, I would say, really and truly, that was on Liverpool. That's not a missed chance for us because we're not supposed to be there. You know what I mean? Like if you say at the start of this season, are we going to be there? If I walked into the bookies, yeah, at the start of the season, and I said, this will be the predicament, this is how everything would pan out at this time, I would be a very rich man right about now. Do you get what I mean? No one would have expected this scenario. So they can't, at the start of the season, say they wouldn't have expected this scenario, but then now say, oh, no, you should have beat him. Because I honestly think that it's almost like people are trying to cloud over what's going on at Liverpool. I think they're in a bit of a downfall. Stroll's talking about they've got players to come back and everything. But for me, you've literally got the components there. You should be doing a lot better. They should be doing a lot better than they are with what they have. Do you know what I mean? They are champions. This is the champions we're talking about. How many times when United are champions did teams come to us and do that to us? You've seen teams this season come to us in the state we are and do that at Old Trafford. Arsenal did that at Old Trafford. Chelsea did that at Old Trafford.
I knew you was going to take shots at Lampard, but go on, continue. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's true though. They've literally come to... Actually, I'd even say we attacked more at Anfield than all of these other teams have attacked at our ground this season, all the other big teams apart from Tottenham. Do you get what I mean? Tottenham did their bit, fair dues. But when Chelsea came, Arsenal came, even City to an extent, that match we had with them, it was very dead matches. So we're getting a lot of criticism for not winning that match. But when you really look at it, this is, as Rob said, this is how these matches tend to pan out. And that's why before the match, me and you said, Flawless, it's probably going to be a ball draw. Do you know what I mean? We hoped for more. You know what I mean? You want more when you have these big teams, and the caliber of players on show. You know what I mean? If you write down those players all on a piece of paper and then I tell you it's going to be a 0-0, you'd be pretty disappointed. And that's exactly what we were. So yeah, for me, I've said for a long time, this is to mask over Liverpool's failings this season. And I'll say failings because they can say they've not got the Van Dijk and whoever, but that's on your manager. That's on your manager. That's on Klopp. As much as, you know, everyone wants to get at OLE, them not beating us is on Klopp because he should have had adequate replacements. He shouldn't be having to play Henderson at centre back. He should have someone. Even if it's like, all right, then we could have an absolute injury crisis and we would still have someone like Phil Jones. I'm not saying I'd want to see him play, but we'd still have an actual centre back. Do you get where I'm coming from? Or we've got like how many players we could call upon. So I don't want to.
We got like 8 centre backs or something like that. But Stroll touched on that. He was very critical, and he's a Liverpool fan for those that don't know. And he was very critical about Liverpool not signing a centre back in the summer. And I think, like I said, a draw at Anfield is always a good result. It's never a bad result. Don't matter if Manchester United are flying and Liverpool are poor or vice versa. So this is why I'm not mad at the actual draw. I was content with it. It's just the fact of Liverpool we could have done more to me, and we could have done more going forward to try and test them. Yes, we created the 2 best chances, but if we would have pressed them, say, 10, 15 minutes earlier, who's to say we wouldn't have created 2 or 3 other chances that then wouldn't have led to us winning the game? And I think that's where the frustration lies. And the thing is why people let it slide with Fergie is Fergie had money in the bank because he won Premier League titles and Champions Leagues. And it's like people forget this because people try and compare the two, but it's like he has money in the bank. Same way if Jurgen Klopp wins nothing at Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp wins nothing at Liverpool this season. Liverpool fans ain't gonna call him out because he's won things in the past. Same way with Pep. Pep had one of the worst title defenses we've ever seen from a Premier League side.
That's the worst.
That's the worst then.
Okay, I can think of is that Chelsea one.
Okay, so let's say it's the worst. No, there's very few Manchester City fans talking about get Pep out, get Pep out. Why is that? Because he's delivered back-to-back titles. When you deliver, it's money in it. This is why people are more forgiving of a good player having a bad game if he's consistent. People ain't going to be on his, like Mane and Salah haven't really been good this season. But Liverpool fans ain't madly on their case like sell him, because they know these 2 players have delivered for their football club. So that's where it lies. Like, if Ole had done things better previously, then I think people are very quick to try and criticize him. Sometimes unfairly, I think. Yes. I think sometimes it is unfair. Like, because even with I didn't mind the lineup apart from Lindelof over Bailly. 10 out of the 11, I'm fine with. And I'm thinking, okay, we can go win this game. But when you see Pogba on the right, Rashford through the middle, Martial on the left, it's kind of like, that's not it. Rob, what was your thoughts on that, the front three? Because to me, that was strange to do that at Anfield.
I think overall the tactics didn't really work, but what Ole was trying to do was he was trying to exploit the channel between Henderson and Trent Alexander-Arnold. So what did he do? He shifted his 2 quickest players over towards the left, which is Martial and Rashford. So he was looking at that space, and just the threat of them being there was to really put them on the back foot and to stop Trent marauding forward. And that in itself did work because Trent Alexander-Arnold had nothing attacking-wise. And we all know that's his game. We know defensively he's weak, but going forward he's the best right-back in the world. So you've got to mitigate what he does well. So I think United did that in terms of the setup. And the idea was to play Pogba on the right, so Pogba could play the ball diagonally behind the defence and exploit those 2 channels, allowing our quick players to get in. Now, the fact that that didn't really work is not the problem. The problem really in the day was just maybe individual performances. So I think if Rashford and Bruno turn up, because they both had bad games, United win. It's as simple as that. United had 8 shots on target against Liverpool. Most teams don't get 8 shots against Liverpool in 6 games. So United had the chances. They didn't take them. And that was why the game ended up 0-0. As we just said, De Gea didn't really get anything at him, 1 or 2 chances, and that was it. And he wasn't really peppered. He didn't have a lot to do. United had the better chances in the game. So Ole set up a 4-2-3-1 is not kind of anything miraculous. We've seen it before. What he did was he tried to kind of outfox Klopp early on by putting players in different positions that Klopp wasn't ready for. No one was ready for Pogba to play on the right, except Sky Sports, who 30 minutes before the game said Paul Pogba was playing on the right. So someone somewhere told Sky Sports that Pogba was playing on the right for whatever reason. So that was out there in the public domain. We all knew it 30 minutes before kickoff. That was strange. But United did go out there and they tried to do it. It just didn't work. That was all it was because of individual players. Otherwise, if it does, say Rashford goes through, puts one away, Bruno puts his chance away, it's 2-0. We're all sat here now going saying that Ole gave the absolute masterclass of masterclasses. Yeah, he beat him 2-0. He got 3 points. He's walked away. He's now 5 points clear at the top of the league. Hooray. It's all fine margins. And this is it. You know, people can say about, you know, do you want Bailly? Do you want Lindelof? Do you want this? Do you want that? It only really matters when you lose. If you lose, then you can kind of rip the team sheet up and say, well, I wish this happened. I wish that happened. I don't think Ole got any of those things really wrong. I think he understood what he needed to do at Liverpool. A little bit of shock and awe. It was always going to be counter-attack. And they just weren't ticking. Bruno, especially for me, wasn't ticking as the number 10. Losing the ball, not really kind of accurate with his passing. He looks a bit tired. But hey, the bloke's been a superstar for a year. Give him the night off. If he hasn't done it, pat him on the back. Go and have a rest, Bruno. You know, we'll try and find the goals in the next game. I'm not too worried about those things. I think United did okay. You know, ultimately, you go there and in hindsight, you can say, oh, I wish United maybe have done more. But tell you what, if we'd been a little bit more gung-ho and lost 1-0, we'd all be sat here now going, why did we not defend at Anfield? Why did we not take care of Mane? Why did we not take care of Salah? Look what Luke Shaw did to Salah. Salah's supposed to be one of the best forwards in the world, bar none. Yeah, won a Champions League. He's won a Premier League. He's one of the absolute top players of his generation. And Luke Shaw put him in his little pocket for 90 minutes. Yeah, and he got nothing, not sniff. So you got to kind of understand these tactics about why these things happen, and that's because Luke Shaw's doing his job and the team's doing their job. So at the end of the day, it will be Klopp who will be the happier with the point, even though he won't be saying that, because Ole will be thinking, we take one of those chances, we walk out of here with a point. And I've seen United do it before. I've seen John O'Shea smash and grab, getting a goal. Yeah, I've seen Diogo Forlan smash and grab. I've seen even, Juan Mata over a kick, smash and grab. You go there, and that's what you do at Anfield. You've got to take the hits, and then you've got to fight back. 8 shots on goal is fine for me. I'm all right with that because it shows we were trying to score goals. In the past, Mourinho, low block, 1 chance on goal, 0-0, feel like I wish I'd never watched football in my life. But that's not what this is. This Manchester United team's different. It wants to win games. It just sometimes can't just attack like full gung-ho because teams like Liverpool will pick you off.
Yeah, they will pick you off. And here's the thing, I'm probably in the minor of that where I'm like I said, I'm content with the point. Luke Shaw was great defensively. We were sound. They didn't trouble us. Liverpool are out of form. I just think that little bit more, I'm not saying go gung-ho, but I'm saying a little bit more attacking intent. I think we win that game. We created the 2 best chances. To me, if we go for it 10, 15 minutes earlier, we create 2 or 3 more chances, and I think one of them gets taken. Yes, Bruno, we'll get into him with the criticism of him, wasn't good. Neither was Rashford. But with the attacking players we have, I say this all the time, we can trouble anybody, and we've actually seen that. It's just that little bit more because Liverpool went at it. Yes, it is fine margins, and like you said, if Bruno or Pogba take one of those chances, we're all here sat masterclass of masterclasses. So I don't mind that. It's just the fact that Liverpool were playing Fabinho, Henderson at the back, no DM. I'm like, just 10, 15 minutes earlier. I'm not saying go gung-ho from the jump. I'm cool. 60 minutes in, I said on the watch along, I'm fine with this. Now go for it a little bit. They there. 20 minutes, 30 minutes to go. Just go for it a little bit more because I think we create a little bit more. So I can't go as far to say it's a missed chance. I think that's a bit strong, but just more what more it could have been, because I think we really could have beat them. And I think momentum shifting, that shifts the momentum big in our favor. And I think that hits them getting beat at home for the first time in 60 odd games or however long it is. JV, what your thoughts?
Do you know what though? I honestly think after that game, they probably sit there and go, lads, we should have lost tonight. And I think that hits them. I think them seeing that even though we missed those chances late on, they're thinking, what? We had to make sure they missed chances in order to draw. It's not like we scored and then they scored, so they've earned a draw. They've literally been given a draw on the back of poor finishing from us. Do you get where I'm coming from? So I already think they'll be mentally thinking, what's going on here? I think that's already happening with their players. You can't tell me that's a confident Mo Salah starting that match. That's not.
Mo Salah's not confident anyway because they're out of form. They've not scored in.
No, but this is what I mean. Even if they were out, I'll tell you now, if this is last season and they're out of form, but then they see us coming up next, it clicks in. Do you get what I'm saying? It's not, they're not even able to, like form goes out the window. They've never clicked in for a big game. That's arguably, if you look at their season, that's arguably, apart from Champions League, because you don't know who you're going to get, you can argue that is Manchester United Liverpool is the biggest game of their season. Yeah,
it's the biggest game of both. I think it's the game I look to.
Do you get what I'm saying? So apart from maybe looking at City at the start of the season because that's who's going to be the more obvious title challengers, they're looking at that game as a game to go out and impress and make a statement. That game has to be that anyway. That's what I'm trying to say. That's why I think it's more on Liverpool, because these you have to understand, these are elite level players. Apart from Bruno, man will tell you that man will argue to the death that no one else in our squad's world class. But man will tell you Robertson's world class, Trent's world class, Fabinho's world class, Thiago's world class, Man won't even try to tell you Firmino's world class. Mane, Salah world class. So you're telling me you had 7 world class men on the pitch, however, 8, whatever, and you didn't affect that game how you wanted to. There's something really wrong. That's what I'm trying to say. That's why it's, for me, it's more on them than it is on us. That's why going forward, if you really now look at this could be it. It could have been a masterclass going forward. If Ollie now capitalizes on it. If we go now and blow away a Fulham, yeah, and then everyone who comes to us now, we make statements and we start and then they're still chugging along, not really clicking. Then that result, in hindsight, looks excellent. Do you get where I'm coming from? And
yeah, because he said that. He said that after. Sorry to cut you off. He said that after the game, he was like, "This is a good point, but we have, and especially it's something along the lines of it's a better point if we now go and beat Fulham in the next game." Like I said, a point at Anfield is always good, and it's being consistent. Now we have to go beat Fulham. If we draw or lose to Fulham, that point looks less good. You know what I'm saying? This is why he needs to. Yeah. And I expect Manchester United to beat Fulham, obviously, which we will get onto. But you made a valid point. So you reckon more so it's not Liverpool out of form. You reckon this is their turn done? I'm going to ask you, JV, then I'm going to go to you, Rob, about this. JV, you think their run's done, or you think it's just bad form and they can come back?
I wouldn't say it's done because they still have the players. But what I would say is I think they need a change of direction. Like, in terms of, right, you have to look at their team. And I've always said this. These men have got some devil midfield, some 6-6-6. Every one of them is a 6. Yeah? All them 3 is a 6. Yeah? They have 3 6s in the midfield. Yeah? Not 8s, not 10s, 3 6s, bro. Call that demon midfield, whatever you want to call it. That isn't... that's the most defensive midfield to ever win a Premier League title. That is the most defensive midfield to ever win a Premier League title because every last one of them is defensive-minded. Every last one of them 3. Yeah? Argue why Wijnaldum can do more. And he does for Netherlands. For Netherlands, he plays 10. But for these, he's sitting. Do you get what I mean? So you have to really look at I don't think their approach benefits them. I think they've been worked out a bit now. I think if you can keep Salah and Mane quiet and then keep them fullbacks quiet, nothing else is going to happen. They've not got a Gerrard who's gonna push on from the midfield and do something. They've not got, like when they had Gerrard and like Danny Murphy, and do you get what I mean? They had players from midfield who could actually do something.
Yep.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Xavi Alonso.
Yeah, Xavi. I don't think look at Xavi Alonso. Xavi Alonso was a defensive midfielder, but he actually pushed on a lot. You don't see that from these 3 midfielders. Like apart from, I think Thiago got forward a bit more, and he had a shot at De Gea, which he saved pretty well. But that was probably like one of the only really big moments in the game I can remember De Gea being tested. But apart from that, if you look at that, I think everyone's realised now. I think not realised, but it's been coming. It's like this isn't just started with them. You have to remember they literally just got over the line for that title. If someone was challenging them for that last season, someone else could have won it. Someone else was challenging last season. Someone else could have won it. They scraped. They had that Watford game. Do you know what I mean? They had a lot of games last season where they looked like they have been figured out, or they looked like teams of when the teams stop being scared of you. Do you know what I mean?
You lose that invincibility complex, so to speak. I get what you're saying there. Yeah, I understand.
I think that's where they are now. I think teams know how dangerous they are, but they also know that we can get at them. Because for me, that you literally, with them doing that with their midfield, how it works, you're overlooking probably the most important part of your team. Which other team has just such a passive midfield? None. Every other midfield in the world is probably the engine room for the team. So them being so passive in midfield, I think hurts them more than it actually. It has worked for them. Don't get me wrong. Of course, it's worked for them. It's got a Champions League and it's got a Premier League, but it's a very one-sided way of playing. That's what I'm trying to say. There's not much more that can come from that midfield. So I think Klopp needs to go and maybe change it a little bit.
I think that's why he did sign Thiago, to try and offer something a little bit more going forward.
I don't think they need that. I think they need someone, a Gerrard, a Lampard, someone who's going to break the lines. They need something from that midfield.
But do you know what? Sorry to jump in. They do that, they'll become Liverpool of 10 years ago. Yeah, where Gerrard was breaking the lines and they were coming fifth in the league. So the problem is, it's like a bit like McTominay and Fred. Yeah, McTominay and Fred, not the best players in the world, are they? They do their jobs. They're functional. It's about a midfield being functional. And like you're saying now, I agree with you. I wouldn't have Wijnaldum in my team. Would you? Would you have him at United? Would you say, I want to sign him? Would you sign Jordan Henderson? No, I wouldn't. No. I'd be like, no, he's all right, but he's not technically where you want to go as a football club, is he? But what Klopp has worked out is that you don't need that. What you need is a front three that give you 60 goals a year. You need a back line that only concede 10, and then you make the rest of it work functionally. And that's what Ole's done. There's no doubt. McTominay and Fred are not as exciting to watch as Bruno, Pogba, and Van der Beek. But you can't just be Mavericks all the time. You can't always do that. You got to have balance. And I think that's the thing. I don't think they need a Gerrard, because I think if they go back to those days, they'll just be a flash in the pan. They'll beat United twice a season. They'll beat City. They'll do all that. And then they'll lose at Burnley. They'll lose at Wolves. They'll lose everywhere else. Yeah, because that's what happens. And that's what United have been for 7 years. Who have you got? I've got Angel Di Maria. What a top player he is, but I can't beat Burnley. So it's those kind of things where it's about balance and nuance and all of the kind of little things in football, the chess pieces, as I call it. And you kind of look at that. And I think with Liverpool, you're right. They're kind of on the downturn, and they've got to kind of find a way to maintain it. I don't think they're going to win the title this year. I think City are the best team in the league when you look at all the pieces. United might go close. But tell you what, if United do win the title by a point, what's the point we're all going to remember?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's going to be that
point. So we're going to remember Anfield. We're going to go remember when we went to Anfield and locked the door. So those kind of things, I think they kind of all balance at the end of the day with football. It's a funny game, but it's trying to find your squad cohesion and chemistry and all of that. Even the unfashionable players that don't give you all the kind of 9 out of 10s every week. Sometimes you need some 7s and just some players that actually kind of go and put their heart on the line and just go and fight for you and fight for the like Scott McTominay. He's never going to be Xavi. Yeah, he's never going to be Iniesta. Yeah, but I tell you what, Scott McTominay will put his face in someone's boot and get it smashed off his head to make sure Man United win. And that's how United have won in the past. A mixture of those players who will fight and die for the badge. But ultimately, you go and then let your flair players go and do the stuff. Bruno, go and do what you got to do. Marcus, run. Go for the channel. Martial doesn't have to work like a dog all week. He just has to do what he does. So I think there's a kind of balancing point. And I think with Liverpool, Thiago, you're right, I think is the reason why they bought Thiago, to give them some more ball possession in those areas. Yeah. But I don't think it's enough. Because you know what? I know Mohamed Salah said today that he wants to stay at Liverpool long term. That's not what people are hearing. I think he'll be gone at the end of the season. And I think when he's gone at the end of the season, I think Mane might follow, and that will be the end of this Liverpool project. Then they'll have to find a different way. At the moment, what they've got everyone, if they give Salah, 200, 300, 400 grand a week, and he stays for another few years, great. But you know what? When you give a player 400 grand, it tends to go off the boil. It happens at every football club. You've only got to look at Alexis Sanchez, players like that. Aubameyang, gets his contract, goes to sleep for a few months. So that you can't win a title like that, you see. So that's the thing with Salah. You either cash in and get 150 million for him and think we did it like they did with Coutinho, or you keep him, give him the money, and he doesn't perform. So it's a really difficult one. I think that's where Liverpool are. I think with 4 years into this project with Klopp, 4 or 5 years, I think that will be the next hurdle. And that's good for United, because I think we're on the right path. We're building the right way. I think Ole's doing the right stuff. He's not the most dynamic coach in the world, but you don't need that. You need someone who gets in his players' ears, gives them heart, gives them confidence, gives them belief. Because certainly the last 3 managers at Man United after Fergie, they didn't do any of that with their squad.
See, I told you, lot. This is why I called him Reverend Rob. I told you, lot. When he talks, just show up and listen, and make sure in the title as well of the YouTube video, you can get to his channel. He's got the Mastermind Show on there. It's the Elite Football Show. I'm correct in saying that. That's what the channel is called.
Yeah, that's Haydar's channel, but we do the Masterclass podcast. That's what we do after every game, and you'll find it on the Twitter feed.
So there you go, the Masterclass podcast. Make sure you click the link in the YouTube. You can go there right now while we go live, and make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell and follow Rob across all his platforms, and you'll see that. And we will get to some of the comments as well. So big up RB, who says big up guys. Like he says, big up guys, like and subscribe. Yeah, you lot, make sure you hit the like button on the video. Let's get this over 20 likes, people, because we do have over 20 people watching. Make sure you share it, subscribe to the channel. Conrad says big up Flawless JV and Rob. Kian says big up Flawless, big up. Shout out to Manny, good vibes. Make sure you subscribe to his channel. Yes, man, them big up. Man, like Rob therapy session today. I think it's therapy sessions every day with Rob. You know what I'm saying? Here's a question for you, Rob. Someone says, hey, any info on your boy Ruben Neves, Rob?
Obviously, someone who follows me calling him my boy, because I do talk about Ruben quite a bit. Yeah, I think if United want a proper number 6, and when I say proper, I mean a modern number 6. So, you know, we talk about what does a number 6 do, yeah? Like you just said there, you're right about Liverpool, and they're kind of 3 or 4 that they put in there are kind of all like number 6s. None of them are number 8s. None of them kind of give you anything going forward. A modern number 6 for me is someone who can technically do the role, but also can put the ball at can run, put the ball at their feet, play the pass, you know, 20, 30-yard pass, split the defense, exploit the channel, all of that. Ruben Neves can do that. Any news? There's no news, but what I'll say is this, is that Wolves themselves are in transition, yeah? They're a club that kind of on the downturn a little bit without Jimenez in their team. You can see Nuno's getting a little bit itchy. He's not as happy in pressers. He moans a bit more. He used to be all, you know, fresh and, you know, used to be the new kid on the block, didn't he, Nuno? Now he just looks like a grumpy old you-know-what. So you can see with Wolves that they might get to a point very soon where they'll need to sell. And they did it. Jota was that. Jota obviously did well. They got a big fee for him. If Manchester United want a modern number 6, and let's just presume that Paul Pogba will leave the football club, because I think there is every instance that will probably happen. If you sell him, what do you bring in? Well, you're not going to get a like-for-like Paul Pogba. There is no other Paul Pogbas in the world. You can't find one. You can bring in other players, but what does your team need? Your team needs a Ruben Neves. Your team needs someone that knows the Premier League, that can get the ball on the deck and get the ball off Maguire, get the ball off whoever the other centre-back is, Bailly or Tuanzebe. I'll try not to mention Lindelof's name because I don't want him being a long-term centre-back either. But give it to that number 6 to start everything. Ruben Neves is the player. He's the player, I think, who's got the CV to do it. And by all means, there'll be other players out there who can play number 6 for Manchester United. But maybe not someone who's got the class to do it. And I think Neves as well, with being Portuguese and the link up with Bruno, and you look at kind of the staff, I think he's the player that would take United on another step. And then we wouldn't be talking about, oh, should we be playing Fred in there? Should we play McTominay? I think it would be Neves plus 1. So it would be Neves plus McTominay, Neves plus Fred. And that is a better balance for what's in front of you, because it will be undoubtedly Bruno, Rashford, then maybe say Mason in years to come, and maybe one other. It'll either be Martial or a new signing, I think. So you get that, and then you think to yourself, hang on, in 12 months' time, is this Man United team ready to challenge? I think with Ruben Neves, the answer would be yes.
Okay, all right. See, I told you a lot, man. Sermons. I keep telling you this.
That's why Twitter call him my boy, because it's like I talk about that quite a bit.
No, he is someone who I've looked at though for a while and thought. I've looked at him for a while and thought, I'm surprised no one has come in for Ruben Neves.
Yeah.
Because even when I remember when he was at Porto, when he was like the captain at like 18 in the Champions League.
Totally.
Thinking, who is this kid? When I just heard that from the commentator, I was like, that's incredible. And then I remember looking at him, seeing him play, and then he came to Wolves, and then it's like, okay, yeah, he's going to be at Wolves. He'll be there for about a year. Someone will grab him.
And he's the player. He's the player that I think people, Man United fans, thought Van der Beek was, but we know wasn't. So when we signed Van der Beek, everyone went, oh, he can play 6, he can play 8, he can play 10. And, you know, websites kind of tell you that he was a 6 and an 8 for Ajax. But being a 6 and an 8 for Ajax in the Eredivisie is completely different to being a 6 or 8 in the Premier League. It's like you might as well be playing on the moon. It's a different world. Yeah, it's not the same position. So you look at Neves, and he can be a 6 or an 8 in the Premier League, even though he's small and diminutive. But he'll fight, he'll kick people, he'll chase, he'll get the position right, and then he'll get you going, you know, in the way that maybe people want Pogba to do. But Pogba, which we know is not a kind of classical number 6, but he can do it because he's physically strong. young, he can play ball with anyone, you know, he can make that pass, you know he can, you trust that he can make that pass. But you just need someone who can do a little bit of both. And you know what, Donny van der Beek's still got a future at Man United, and, you know, go and play higher up the pitch as an 8 or a 10 or whatever. But if you want someone who can play a 6 and be technically good, I can't see a better player in world football. And you know, that's how I look. I work in world football than Ruben Neves, who's got the CV to come to Man United and do the job that he's been doing at Wolves. He's not been playing at Wolves because they changed things a little bit. So he kind of just been, they played Moutinho more, and he's kind of been on the bench a few times. That's fine. People are like, oh, why is he on the bench? He couldn't be at Man United if he's on the Wolves bench. But when he comes on for Wolves, he does the job. And that's what you want. You want someone who could do the job. And I think he'd be great at Man United.
Yeah. And speaking of that, you mentioned him there, Donny. Ted here says, what does Robbo think about Donny's role in this squad?
Yeah, look, Donny van der Beek, I put this out earlier on in Twitter, and I said, Donny van der Beek's signing is one reason why Man United are top of the league. And people are like, why? I don't get that. I don't understand. When we did the transfer window stuff, I've worked 20 transfer windows now. That's how long I've been doing this job. And transfer window number 20, we bought Van der Beek, Cavani, Palestri, Tellez. Everyone was kind of going, oh, it's a weak window. The whole idea for me was that you've got to strengthen your options. So when you're in training, if you're training with a set amount of players, 14, 15, 16 players, and they've got no pressure on them, they've got no one in the squad to kind of go and put their foot on them, they don't get better. They don't improve. It doesn't matter how good you are. If you go and bring in a left back like Tellez goes and says, hello, Luke Shaw, how you doing, mate? I'm an international Brazilian left back. You better play well because I'm having your shirt otherwise. Donny van Beek does exactly the same for Bruno Fernandes and for all the other guys. You know, you look at who you're playing against in training every day. They're your first competitors, the people that you play with. And Van der Beek has improved that squad. Now, I'm telling you this, if Bruno goes and breaks his ankle tomorrow, Van der Beek plays every game, and Van der Beek plays well as a number 10. Yeah, he'd be great as a false 9 or as a 10. That's why you sign him. Long term, I think he's fine. And I think he understands that professionally, when he gets the chance, might be 20 minutes here, might be 10 minutes there, he's got to come on and be stellar. He's got to go out there and say, I'm world class. Now, is he world class? No, probably not. But can he get better? Yes. I just think people need to chill with him, give him time. Fred took a year to even look like a footballer at Man United. And I've seen it, multiple players who've taken a year, 18 months to break through and be really good for United. It's a hard job playing for our football club. I think he'll be fine. I think he's going to be a really good long-term signing. He's still young. And I do think that once Pogba goes, there will be a kind of little shift in that midfield as to how it's set up. And you might see that Van der Beek, a year of doing what he's done now, will be really beneficial in maybe the years ahead.
So do you see Pogba leaving, Rob? Do you reckon that will happen in the summer?
I think I think it comes down to this.
In the COVID market.
Okay, let's look at kind of where we are with Paul Pogba. Paul Pogba was talking to Man United about a new contract. He was happy to sign a new deal. Yeah, that was where we were several months ago. We knew this because that was what Raiola was saying to the press. Pogba was kind of saying that he was happy at United. Man United was saying they were happy with Paul Pogba. Everyone was kind of happy. I think when it came down to the facts of what United were asked to pay Paul Pogba, they sniffed at it and went, well, he's under contract, so we don't need to talk about this anymore. We're not doing it. We don't have to. COVID times, we've just lost £100 million in revenues. We are not talking about giving anyone pay rises. So it all went silent. Then, of course, Raiola had his little rant, which is what he does. All agents do it. It's not just Raiola. All agents do this. And we're back to where we are. And I think the reality is this. If Real Madrid pay Paul Pogba a really great contract, he'll get a Real Madrid. If Barcelona give him a really good contract, he'll get a Barcelona. But it's not nailed on that those clubs are going to give him that. Juventus might do it. Might say, do you know what? Come back to us. We'll give you 300 grand a week, mate, 400 grand a week. And that's great. But I'm telling you what, Juventus are not doing that at the moment. No chance. No way are they giving anyone that contract. Not even Ronaldo's getting a pay rise. So would he stay at Man United? I think if United won the title this year or even came close, like let's say we came fourth, but say we were 6 points behind the leaders, yeah? And we're in the Champions League. I think there's every chance Paul Pogba stays. I don't think he's as unhappy at Man United as the press make out. That's just not what we hear from his camp. It's just not true. But of course, the narrative always is let's stamp on Paul Pogba's head and let's make him the demon and all of this. And as I've always said, all that Paul can do is play well, like he is at the moment and shut everyone up. So like someone said to me the other day, if we win the title, because Paul Pogba's been world-class this year, we'll pat him on the back and we'll say, on your way. If you want to go to Real Madrid, thank you. You know, Paul Pogba, I do believe he loves United. He's been there since he was 15. He knows he only left because he wasn't getting maybe the respect that our Godhead, Fergie, was really should have given him at that point. Fergie really should have had him in the team a lot more. And he was playing Raphael in central midfield and Park and everyone else and their mothers, except this wonderful 18-year-old talent we had. So he left. Okay, that's cool. That's what happens. But he came back, and he came back because he felt he had unfinished business. So I think that he might stay, but he's got to see that United are progressing. And we know that he likes Ole. He likes the tactics. When he plays that left-hand side of midfield, I think that's where he feels happiest with. And I think in a 4-2-3-1, we've seen on the left side of the midfield, he looks the business. And I think United will play that system more and more. I think when we see the Fulham game, and we'll talk about that obviously soon, I think you'll probably see Pogba going back to a more attacking role against that kind of team where he can kind of work between the lines a little bit more. He did a really good job against Liverpool. Wasn't kind of Paul Pogba being flash, you know, and doing all those skills that we want, but he cut that channel down. He did all the defensive work that you'd expect. And he looks motivated to me. He doesn't look like a player who doesn't care. You know, he's not wandering around. He doesn't look like Christian Eriksen in the last few months at Tottenham, does he? Yeah. So you can always give yourself examples of what players have done when they've leaving. Alexis Sanchez, you know, last few months at Man United. Romelu Lukaku, you know, I can remember watching Romelu warm up, yeah, when he was a sub at United for those last 3 months. And my God, you've never seen anyone look less interested in being on a football pitch, kind of staring at the sky, going, right, I'm getting paid my 200 grand a week, but I'm not doing anything today. So that's just the way it is. That's football. But I think Paul's all right. I think he feels good. I'd love to keep him at the football team, at the football club. I think he would be integral to building United. But if he leaves, that's his prerogative. Go and do your work somewhere else and we move on. Go and buy yourself a Ruben Neves for 50 million quid. Fill that hole. Keep going, keep moving forward. You know, for me, Bruno is everything at the moment. Bruno and Marcus, I think they're the two players that you build the attack around and take it inching forward. People talk about defensive midfielders. Go and find the right midfielder, not necessarily defensive one. Find someone who can do a little bit of everything. Get that ball forward, play in transition. Don't just play counter-attack, play actual real football. And I think we've seen more of that from United in the last year.
Yeah, we've seen more of it. Hopefully, we should see more. And you mentioned it there, touching on the league title in regards to can we challenge? That's key and instrumental on Pogba staying on how close we are to the top. When I've spoke on this, I've said this. Do I believe Manchester United can win this league title? No. And that's simply because I believe the manager we have is not good enough and will get more key decisions wrong than he will right coming when it comes down to the final stretch. Like, you all know this because you're old enough to remember Premier League years and these shows, and they'll show certain results that happen for the winning team. And sometimes a draw would be a point gained and not 2 points dropped. Or there'd be certain games the team who went on to win the league title won, and you're like, that's a key moment. Or there'd be certain times the team who finished second, they'll drop points. So so there'll be certain, so there's obviously titles Manchester United won and lost. You can pinpoint certain games. It might have even been early, it might have been late, it might even been in the middle. So that's how I'm going to enjoy this. United being top of the league and being in the conversation because we haven't been there for 8 years. Do I believe when it comes down to it, we can beat Liverpool's Klopp and Manchester City's Pep? In my heart of hearts, no, I don't. I want to be wrong, of course, as a Manchester United fan, I want to be wrong. And no one I've been able to talk to, whether it's a Manchester United fan or a rival fan, is sold on it. So what are your thoughts on it? Do you believe we will win the league? Or are you just, all right, let's see how it goes?
No, because look, you're right. We're not as good as City. We're not as good as Liverpool yet. We're not. That's the truth. But last year we were 30 points behind Liverpool. Now we're ahead of them. So there is something in that. You know, you've got to look at the stats, and the stats tell you something. But what I will do is add a little bit of wisdom to that from what you're saying there, because you're totally right. And I think this is where people have to be careful about the assumptions about what Ole is and what Ole isn't. Yeah, because we always hear about he's not good enough and all this. It's difficult because when you're top of the league, it kind of means you are doing your job. It really does. So I'll look at it like this. I am still old enough to remember the day Fergie got the job. I was only a boy, but I remember it. And from 1986, we had a really good season. That second year, we got 81 points against Liverpool, and Liverpool got 90 and won the title. And everyone was like, well, that's like crazy. But really, for 4 years, it was absolutely dire. The football was bad. The tactics were bad. It was a regressive 4-4-2. It was horrible. Yeah. And up until 1990, from 86 to 1990, it's a 4-year period, Fergie's teams were bad. His tactics were bad. And people used to say to me at Old Trafford as a kid, this manager can't manage. He can do it at Aberdeen, but he can't do it at Man United. And what happened? The whole point is that managers learn. And Fergie did learn over a 4-year period, and he got the chance to make lots and lots and lots of mistakes. And I tell you what, if Mark Robins didn't score that goal against Nottingham Forest in January in 1990 when we won the FA Cup, Fergie gets sacked because that's where he was. He was on the edge. He was ready to go. I think with Ole, he's a student of the game, and people don't believe this and people don't know it. He's a guy who goes and does the coaching work. He has done for a long time. And he's not Pep. He's not Klopp. He doesn't have that kind of aura. But you talk to people at Manchester United, you talk to the players, you talk to people that work with Ole over time, they all tell you the same thing. And that is he gets in people's heads and he makes average players better and he makes better players great. So it's about giving him that little bit of leeway, I think, where we kind of have an assumption about what he is and give him time. Because you know what, like you just said there, no one expected United to be top of the league now. If I'm a bookie, you come to me 6 months ago and say, do you know what, Rob, you're a bookie. What odds are you giving me for United to be top in January? I'm giving you 20-1. 25-1. I'm thinking no chance. This Man United team's light years behind Liverpool, light years behind Man City, and yet the reality is that somehow Ole in 12 months has got his team above both of those teams. Now you're right, we might crash and burn, and if we do, you say that's how it is. It's part of developing as a squad. You take your time, give Ole a chance. I think the problem is it's a bit like the Luke Shaw syndrome. Everyone hates Luke Shaw, yeah? So 6 months ago, people going to me, people said to me, who do you think is going to be United's most important player this year? And I said, Luke Shaw. And everyone went, what? What? Why? And I was like, because if he gets it right, that left-back position becomes crucial to the team. Luke Shaw's getting it right. United are top of the league. You've got to find a way with players sometimes that you don't like. You've got to give them chances to kind of do it and say, I don't rate them, but hey, go and do your job. If you can do it, you can prove me wrong. And there's a lot of that at Man United. And I think the manager's one of them. And there's a lot of, like you said, they're world-class. Liverpool got 7 world-class players, 8 in their team. United haven't. Bruno, world-class. Rashford on his day. Pogba. That's it. Nothing. Nothing. What United have got is a team that believe in each other now and a manager that believes in them. And they do their work and they get results. But you got to keep doing it. Fulham's coming up. If you lose at Fulham, you're straight back down. And that's the problem with Man United at the moment. It's all dodgy ground. So let's just see how it goes. And Ole's got to prove everyone wrong, just like Fergie proved us wrong in 1990. Because when he won that FA Cup, I can remember thinking, it's like the world. It's like winning the World Cup. It's like, oh my God, United won the FA Cup. We haven't won a trophy since 1985. It was like, wow. But that little steps took us towards Eric Cantona. And 3 years later, Eric Cantona took us to 25 steps forward that we needed to be. It takes time. And then Fergie became the Hall of Fame great manager, didn't he? So Ole's still young. He's a young manager overall. He's not a kid. But I like what he's trying to do. I like how he's trying to play football. And I like the players. Bringing in Bruno was a statement of intent. And United play football that's good for their attack and good for Bruno Fernandes, and they are top of the league.
Yeah, and I've said this, I give Ole credit for the team we've got. I like the team we've got. I like the squad. I think the transfer windows we've had have been good. Mine is probably Dan James. The rest of his signings, I pretty much back them all, whether it's Maguire, who gets a lot of stick. Wan-Bissaka at times gets stick. Bruno, which I think is crazy. Telles looks very good. Donny, I'm a big fan of because I just like technical ballers like that. And yes, we are top of the league and you give him credit for that. But I always look at it like people act like because you're top, you can't aim for more and be better. To me, we could. If you look at my issues with him is if you look at the game, probably minus the Spurs game, if you look at the games we've drawn and lost, to me, he could have had a bigger impact on those games. And this is why I'm critical of him. And at times where we just play terrible football, but in times we'll play absolutely phenomenal football. Like the West Ham game, I use this as the example all the time. For 60 to 65 minutes, we were terrible, absolutely awful. And then we turned it on for 10, 15 minutes and scored 3. You won't see 3 bad goals from individual players this season in the same game from a team. They were 3, except the Pogba goal, the Greenwood goal, the spin, and the pass from Matter into Rashford and the dink over the keeper. So
you gave the answer earlier. You gave the answer earlier about Liverpool. Yeah, I covered Liverpool last year for work when I covered all the matches. And you're right. For 20 games of that run, they were horrible to watch. But they learned how to beat teams by not being great. They learned how to kind of get over the line. And that's what football really is. Elite sports is about that, getting over the line. So when you're not good, when you're playing Sheffield United, you're not playing well, you find a way to win, whether it be 1 moment of magic, 2 moments, 3, where you cut someone open and you go and win. And I think this is a trick for Man United, is to find ways of doing that. But what the thing is, Flawless, is that as a fan base, let's not say to the manager with a gun to his head, you start these teams, and if you lose, we are going to pull this trigger because we're ready. We're ready to blow your brains out. That's not a great way of running anything, you know. And this is what I object to. It's kind of like, put the gun away, and if he fails, if he fails, sack him. Yeah, if he fails, sack him, and we move on. And you go and find your next manager. You know, you go and. Whoever you bring in next, there'll always be some kind of downside. Someone will say, oh, this manager's too young, they haven't got the experience. We've just had Mourinho and Van Gaal, 2 of the greatest managers of all time, who couldn't do it. Yeah, so it's one of those ongoing processes. But we have this weird thing as Man United fans that, you know, the gun is there, and we kind of think we're Arsenal TV. Yeah, we think we're going to blow our manager's brain out. Yeah, Mikel Arteta. I want Mikel Arteta. I want him. We've lost 6 games. Bang, bang, bang. It's rubbish. It's not how you support your team. You have to sometimes go, right, let's just calm down a little bit. And I think with Man United, like we said 6 months ago, when people wanted to pull the trigger on OLE, if you said, hey, 6 months' time, Luke Shaw's going to be the best left back in the league at the moment, and United are going to be 3 points clear at the top of the table, everyone would have laughed at you. Yeah, including me. So it's one of those things, isn't it? I think history teaches us, and we just got to sometimes listen to our own history. Man United have done this before. Fergie did it. 5 years of absolute crap football at Man United, really bad football, and he found a way. And he was a Scottish manager, played, manager of Aberdeen, hadn't Scottish Premier League. So what, doing well there. It's a nothing league. It was better in those days than it is now. But I think for Ole, it doesn't matter that he managed Cardiff and it didn't work. It doesn't matter. What matters is what he's doing today. His team's top of the league. I hope it continues, because I'd love to see him prove people wrong. And
I want him to prove me wrong.
Exactly. Yes. Of course. We all want that.
I've said this. I want him to win the league title. I can say, to everyone who's Ole out, uses all wrong. But just in my heart of hearts, I just don't believe he's the guy. And that's what
I believe. Like. How do you not believe after what Rob just said, bro? I believe. Rob's done it for me, bro. Those 2 last meetings, I believe now. He's got me thinking. I believe.
We have to think. That's a really good way. I would say football and politics are like the same thing. And sometimes you just got to think about it. Sometimes you got to go, do you know what? I don't like it, but. And then just think United, you're right. There's some performances you go, oh my God, this is awful. And it takes you back really quickly. It's like disaster syndrome. You kind of feel that the nerves and the kind of anxiety, and you think, oh, it's horrible. I hate this. Why is Luke Shaw suddenly turned into the worst left back in the world again? What's happening? Yeah. Why is Harry Maguire making those passes? Why does everything look so slow and dull and awful? Sometimes people have a bad day at work. It happens, footballers included. We all do it. Yeah, we all have bad days. But of course, if you're in the limelight and at Manchester United, you ain't not allowed a bad day. If you have a bad day, you're in trouble. So I just think it's a little bit of that. Hopefully, United have better days and we kind of have a good finish to the season. It would be awful if it kind of all fell apart. But it's the same for Ole, isn't it? If it does fall apart from here, it might prove that he's not the right manager. If we get to the end of the season and go, oh, do you know what? We're 20 points behind them again. City won the title and it was all horrible. In the last 10 games, we couldn't win a game and all of this. The proof's in the pudding then, isn't it? But at the moment, that gun doesn't need to always be there. Let's put the gun away and say, right, let's just enjoy it. Let's enjoy being top. Hey. Let's look at Arsenal and let's look at there's Liverpool and let's look at City chasing us. And one of those teams is probably going to catch us. I'm talking City potentially. And I think Liverpool are obviously still in it without a doubt. Don't worry about Arsenal. But the other teams, everyone else, those teams can still catch you because it's really tight at the top. But I like what we're seeing with United. I just hope that they can stay fit. Like if you lose Bruno, that's it, title finished. There's no chance to win the title. And I think even if you lose one of the other big pieces like Rashford or something like that for a long time, Pogba even got an injury at this point, I think you'd really struggle to replace them and carry on being as good. And Fulham have played well. I've watched them loads recently, and this is it's a task because their defense is really, really good. So you've got to find a way of cutting them apart and winning the game. But hey, Leeds are good. Someone told me not long ago. What happened to them? You know, I think we proved that we can beat teams that are supposedly doing quite well. We can score goals.
But that's it, though. Like you said there, that's why I'm enjoying it. I've been riding. I said this from the jump. As soon as we went top of the league, I said I'm going to ride this till the wheels fall off. Totally. All of the wheels. I'm going to ride this until all 4 wheels pop off of this bandwagon. Because like I said, I don't know if we're going to be there. I hope to be wrong, and we will soon find out. And it's because of the reason why I'm like very critical of Ole at times is simply because of the attacking options we have. That's what it is. Because I was having this discussion with Arsenal fans. So shout out to everyone who's Gonna Talk from the Arsenal yesterday. And we was discussing it afterwards. And we were discussing your Donny van der Beeks. And I'm talking and I'm like, all right, Donny's not played as much as he should because they was asking me about it. I'm like, what midfield in the country does Donny not start for?
Yeah, well, this is it, and I think it's not a judgment on Donny and what Donny can do. You know, like you said, like if Donny was at Arsenal, he might be starting every week, and we'd be thinking, "Wow, look at this player." The whole point of it is that transfer window that everyone said was a failure, the last transfer window because we didn't get Sancho. When I did a transfer podcast on it, and people went, "What do you think?" and I said it's a good transfer window. Everyone said the same thing to me. They went, "That's wrong because we didn't get a superstar, we didn't get this, we didn't get that." The point is that you bring players to your football club that make everyone else better. That's what you do. That's how you win championships. How United won titles over the years. You bring players through. Donny van der Beek has made Man United better. It just so happens that we haven't seen him be the star yet, and he will be eventually. He's got the quality. But it's the same thing like when we bought Mkhitaryan. Mkhitaryan was like this great talent in Germany, player of the year twice. Kagawa, player of the year twice. You know, always great. It doesn't always work. But bringing players to your football club keeps you ticking over and keeps you getting better. Van der Beek will be fine. You know, I think he'll be okay in time because there'll be a natural turnover of where he'll play games. But he's got to prove it as well. I said in my podcast, I went, let's stop feeling sorry for Donny van der Beek. Yeah, he's on a good wage. He's on a good wage, 100 grand a week or whatever, pocketing it every week. He's living the life. Yeah, he's playing for one of the biggest clubs in the world. Now go and prove it. You don't get anything handed to you in football. You got to prove it. Doesn't matter if you're a Aubameyang on your big contract. You got to go and score goals, mate. So he's doing that now. So people go, clap, clap, clap. But Donny's got to do the same. He's got to come onto that football pitch and say, hey, I'm a viable alternative to Bruno Fernandes. Because at the moment, just now, he's not. Keep working hard. Keep doing the job.
You know what, though? That's a very good point you've made about, having Bruno and Van der Beek and players like that, because I said for a long time, like in the past few years, I've always said I can imagine us in training and everyone looks excellent because the quality would be so. There's no no, it's true. Like imagine even like for Rashford, when Rashford first come through, and then he probably did look amazing against the Phil Jones. Do you get what I mean? He probably looked and it's helped us. It's helped us because he's come along as a player. But there's a lot of players who would have looked better or things would have worked out in training, then we go out to play a match and it doesn't work because you've not got equal quality. It's like when you have to think, we've come from having, like, I think I was watching a game the other day. I think it was the Liverpool game, when Martial, his debut. Yeah. And I was watching it before we had the Liverpool game the other day. And I was, for about 20 minutes, because I was watching a full match, I was struggling to realise who was up front. And I only realised, like, after I was like, oh my God, it's Fellaini. And I thought, how the hell is Fellaini starting up against Liverpool? Yeah. And that shows that's a difference in quality. So, like, if you look at now, if one of our strikers got injured, we've got at least 4 people who could fit in that position. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
That's the total difference in the team. So I actually do appreciate having these players because you could even flip that to say last season and say when you've got your replacements on the bench or Pereira or James or this person or that person who are not Manchester United starting 11 quality. So then if they're starting 11 quality, how can they be good enough for the players to train against? Do you get what I mean?
100%. And that's, I always use the NBA analogy. Yeah, I love basketball, and it's I'm a big Boston Celtics fan, and you know, I look at kind of how they run their sports and how they look at stuff. Ultimately, you can have LeBron James, you can have Anthony Davis, yeah, but you've got to have role players that push everything, that push the envelope, that make the whole team better. Yeah, and they don't have to be stars, but do you know what? When they get that chance to shoot the free, they've got to shoot it accurately. Yeah, they've got to be good. They've got to go and compete with these guys in coaching and training every day of the week. And I think that's the problem for Man United, is that last year, the bench, do you know what I mean? I think I was probably that far getting on the Man United bench this last year. That's how bad it was. You know, I think one of us probably could have just slipped in there and no one would have noticed. Do you know what I mean? So that's how bad it was. And I think Ole really did highlight that and said, right, I've got to go and find someone. He went and got a really great world-class veteran striker. And that's a great thing to have on your bench. Matters obviously played around the fringes. He's been doing that well. Tuanzebe was injured last year. He's stepping up into that breach. You go and buy Van der Beek, an international footballer. He helps you from the bench. It's always about options. And someone said to me on Twitter today, they went, oh, but it doesn't help you playing those 5 minutes, these players, bringing them on for 5 or 10 minutes. It's like, do you watch football? It's exactly about the 5 minutes. You lose games in a split second. Yeah, you can be great for 95 minutes. And in that one moment, if you don't have the right team on the pitch, you lose. And that's why your subs are so important. That's why Pereira isn't at the football club now. That's why Jesse Lingard is on his way out of the football club eventually. This is why Phil Jones will never play for Man United again. You know, this is exactly why that things are changing. This is exactly why Chris Smalling, even though he was great in Italy last season, didn't wear a Man United shirt ever again. That's why Lukaku went. That's why Alexis Sanchez went. These guys now, you look at that Man United bench. That Man United bench was 5 times better than the Liverpool bench in that game. And do you know what? Jurgen Klopp knew that. Jurgen Klopp went, we have to go after this game from the beginning, because if it goes late in the day and it's 0-0, we could lose this. That's exactly what happened. They were just that bit away, United. I think we're playing them in the cup. I think you might see a different set of tactics. Yes, I think you'll see United at Old Trafford go, do you know what? We're going to cut you to pieces. We're going to go after you here. It's a cup game. It's not about 3 points. You know, if we win or lose, we win or lose. But we're going to go after you, and we're going to try and humiliate you. And I think United will feel that. I think they'll feel good after being at Anfield. They'll be like, right, let's see what happens. I hope I'm right. I might be wrong, but that's what I kind of feel. I think that the players, you know, Harry Maguire said after the game, he went, yeah, we should have won this game. And so for you to say that, the captains go, oh, yeah, I should have won it. That tells you the mindset. They kind of go, no, we get it. We know we probably should have taken a chance. And like you guys are saying, you know, could we have done a little bit more to win it? Maybe, but we didn't. But it felt good. You came off the pitch going, that's the champions. We were 30 points behind the champions. We're not behind them anymore. We're with them. We're living with them. And we're living inside their heads. For everything they've said, Liverpool fans tweeting me, Jurgen Klopp on the telly, Jordan Henderson was moaning about how Liverpool were great on the day and should have won 6-0 and all of this rubbish. We're living in their heads. That's where we want to be. We want to live in their heads. They don't live in our heads. If we fail, we get on with it. We work on. We try and be better. We're not worried about Liverpool. Liverpool are worried about us.
100%. And that is, you know what? That's a very big point. Because I thought that after that match, I thought, the next time we play them, these players will be confident, because someone like, all right, then, as much as everyone's getting on at Rashford for that chance where he should have passed it to Cavani, and Pogba's probably thinking about his, and Bruno will be thinking about his. If they are playing that in that FA Cup match, they've got a point to prove. So this is where I know it's weird to say it kind of worked out in our favour, but it's true what you said. They've been told, they're going to think, wait, we've been toe to toe with these, and yeah, they've not got this player, or yeah, they've not got that player, but they didn't really harm us. They didn't look like they were going to actually harm us at one point during that match. We never looked, even though they had a bit of pressure on us. It wasn't that type of pressure where like you're living dangerously and De Gea's pulling one out of this top corner, one out of that bottom corner.
Totally.
You know what I mean? It's not like Maguire's having to hook one off the line and everything. It wasn't that type of game. No. Our players will be very confident from that. That's why I think it was actually better for us than it was for them, because they will be from that like, oh my God, this is the team that we've been so dreadful.
Yeah, we didn't lose a psychological battle, and in football that is a really big thing. Like we've played City over like 7 years and they've been winning titles and we haven't. Every time we've played them, even when we've beaten them, there's been fear. So when we beat them at the Etihad 3-2 and Pogba scored and all of this.
Oh yeah.
We still went there with fear. We're thinking we're going to get battered here. They're going to kill us. We're so far off them that if we lose 5-0, that's probably, we're not going to say, oh, that was terrible. We're just going to, that's where we are at the moment. We're not as good. But you're right. So look at that Marcus Rashford chance. Marcus runs. Yeah, you're right. He goes to the right. And on that side, that's Henderson's side. And he's hoping that Henderson goes with him and not Fabinho. And what Fabinho did was that he was brave. He went with him all the way. Yeah, he chased him all the way. If Henderson goes with him instead, Rashford scoots past him and he's in on goal and he slots it away and we win. And that's the kind of lay of the land. That's how fine the margins are. Because in that moment, you got to make that choice. And the person who won that battle was Fabinho. Good luck to him. You know, he kept Liverpool in the game at that moment. But that's what football's about. It's just those moments that can kind of change things. And United didn't have a lot of those where you kind of thought, like you said, you know, I've seen De Gea play against Liverpool before and make like 20 saves and go, oh my God, this is embarrassing. Like, you know, we have De Gea here, we get hammered. And that's not where we were. And that's not where we are. I think we're a better team from back to front. I don't think we're going to win the title. I really don't. I'm not going to give myself that. But I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy it because we are where we want to be. And that is when you kind of flick on the table and you look, you know, on your phone, you see that Man United are top of the league. And that's cool. Exactly. Look at everyone else below. So today, let them look at us because that's where we want to be. We want to be at the top. It doesn't mean we're the best team in the world. It doesn't mean we're the best team in the world. It really doesn't. But it does mean we're the best team in England at the moment. And if we can just eke out a few more things, I think even one more transfer in the transfer window in January might take you over the edge if you can get the right player. Though at the moment, there isn't really anyone available who's actually going to do that for us.
Yeah, Leah says, go on. I just wanted to say, he said we need more of Rob on all the fan channels perspective. Facts, I told you, man. Sermons, I did not lie. I told you lot, innit? You know what I'm saying? Even JV's over there believing. Told you, Reverend Rob out here. Go on, JV. Say what he's going to say.
No, I was just going to say, you know, in terms of that transfer, he's been speaking up this Diallo kid. I don't know if it's like, you know, just to confidence boost him. But I've seen like a few things on social media, other players saying things. And I'm thinking, you know what? Could he be a little boost? I'm not saying he's going to be someone who's going to win us games, but it could be a little, he does seem to be something different maybe. And I think towards the end of the season, he could be a bit of a surprise factor. Do you know what I mean? Like
totally.
So like, at the start of the season, it seemed really strange. I was like, why not get this kid in now? Now that actually seems like excellent business to get him in January. I know they didn't plan it. It was because of like the work permit and everything. Kind of played out right. It's like at the right time now where we are in the league and you've got this bit of an unknown quantity. It does remind me kind of the Martial transfer where he's a young guy, unknown quantity. What can he do? And I think he was saying he could make his debut within 4 to 5 weeks.
Yeah, well, totally. And do you know, I'll tell you a little bit about Amad Diallo, and just that deal quickly. When all that came about, and you know, he's been on United's radar forever. You know, literally since he was like 12 years old or something. United have been watching him for a long, long time. Yeah, it goes back to historical bit of recruitment back to when he was a kid. United kind of looked at that and everyone wanted Sancho, yeah? You know, you wanted Sancho, I wanted Sancho. Everyone's like, you know, go and pay the money, go and get Jadon Sancho. And Man United thought, does 108 million on the right-sided attacker take us to the title? I think the truth is, at that moment, the answer was no, because there was other things to do in the transfer market. But what United did was they looked at Pellistri, they looked at Diallo, and they thought, right, for 40 million, we can bring 2 really good kids in combined who we believe can become first teamers over time. And what you're saying there is right. You bring Diallo in, you stick him in training, and he's great, just like Ronaldo was at 18. It's the same kind of ethic. It doesn't mean that he's going to be Ronaldo or as good as that, but it means that you put him in there and he makes other people better. You know, he goes in there and Rashford goes, well, I play on the right at the moment and I'm probably not playing so well. I better play better. I better just step up a tiny bit. Or you play Diallo eventually in 4, 5, 6 weeks' time, and he does give you an incredible upside that scares the league. Yeah, and then suddenly go, oh my God, United have picked up this generational talent for pennies because 30 million is nothing in kind of bigger context of it. And that they've found that someone now, I don't know if that's going to be the case. You know, I think you have to give him time again. And I keep talking to you about Van der Beek and taking a year and all of this. So there's no pressure on Amad Diallo. What we do know is that he has got a big upside, and that he can play that right-hand side wing position. He can go outside, he can come inside, he can attack the channel, he can do those things, he can get in behind that maybe we haven't got at the moment in terms of the bigger squad. And you know what? He'll make Dan James better. Yeah?
Yes.
He'll make Van der Beek better. He'll make the other players who have all just come in maybe in the last 2 years, maybe a little bit comfy. They'll be thinking, oh, there's another player now I have to think about every day. When I get up and have my Weetabix and I go to Carrington at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning, I have to go and face that boy on a training pitch, and he's hungry, and I've got to be hungrier. And that's good. That's what it's about. And Palestri's the same. I think Palestri has done so good in the under-23s. He's been brilliant for United in the under-23s. And that's a good thing. You know, they're not superstars, but what's always the catchphrase for Man United, yeah? We don't buy superstars, we create superstars. Yes, and that's what it's about. You know, bring these kids in. Ronaldo was like that. He wasn't a superstar at 18. No one knew who he was. You've got to give them time. And Ronaldo, for 2 years, everyone thought he was rubbish. Honestly, like I know now people think he was great, but for 2 years, he'd come on and everyone at Old Trafford would go, oh, step overs. Yeah, oh, no production. No production. Oh, he's going to dive. Oh, and it was like that for 2 years. And then he scored that header in the FA Cup final. I think it was against Millwall. And we won the FA Cup final. And people went, oh, he can head the ball. Oh, he can head the ball. Oh, he's tall. Well, he's actually grown, isn't he, while he's been at United? So these things do take time, and you get there eventually. I like the journey. I think Diallo is going to be a good player. I like what he can do. And I think United have made a calculated gamble on him that if you're not going to get Sancho, then you've got two young players that's still going to be good in that position. And then you've got Rashford over there. Then Pogba can play on the right now. Then do you know what? If Martial has to play on the right, he can play there. Hey, you can play Dan James there if you want someone to run really fast backwards and forwards. You can do those things. You've got options. I think it's good. I think we're in a good place.
Let's hope so. I told you lot, man. Sermons, I keep telling you lot. Make sure everyone, you hit the like button on the video. Make sure you share this across your socials. Subscribe to Sarcasm City TV. Hit the notification bell. Also, make sure you subscribe to Rob's chat. Well, make sure you watch Masterclass after each Manchester United game. The link is in the YouTube title. You can literally click it and stay on while the show's on and go and subscribe and make sure you follow Rob across all platforms. So now onto the Fulham game.
Just Rob B on Twitter, that's the one. Just follow me on there. It's all there. It's all through there. All my podcasts and everything that I work on is all on that.
Catch it there. _Rob_B. You'll see it there. And someone said also he needs to be on all fan channels. Facts. Rob knows he has an open platform over here on Sarcasm City TV. Anytime he wants to come over. Anytime you just message me, anytime you want to jump on, just saying you want to get off your chest, you can jump on. Onto the Fulham game now. How do you want us to approach it, and how do you see us approaching it, bro? Because I'm expecting, me personally, I'll just get this in quick. I'm expecting a win. I want us to go there, play on the front foot. Yes, Fulham have been playing better, but they've drawn their last 5 games, I think it is. I watched them against Spurs. I did watch them against Chelsea. But they did play well, but they are fighting relegation for a reason. And I want Manchester United to go there and treat them as such, depending on the 11 and how he does. Obviously, we got Liverpool on the weekend, so I'm not sure how Ole is how much that's going to affect Ole's lineup. But whatever lineup we put out against Fulham, I just want to see us be aggressive, play on the front foot, and put them to the sword. But what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, look, there's 2 games coming up, Fulham and Liverpool. The most important game out of those 2 is Fulham, right? So if we win in the Cup, great. But we're the top of the Premier League. It's about winning every game from here on. I always say that if you win a Premier League, it's because you did it against the bottom 10, not against top 6. It's about how you treat the teams outside the top half of the division. So Fulham are one of those teams. So that's the starting point. Fulham have been really good the last 3 or 4 weeks. I've watched a lot of them. I watched them against Chelsea. They set up really well. Scott Parker sorted his defence out. They're not an easy prospect anymore, even though they're going to get relegated. Let's be honest, they're going to get relegated. They're not a great overall attacking force. So Manchester United should expect that they can play a high line, and say they did in the last week against Liverpool. They can play on the front foot. United might even play something like a 4-4-2 diamond, something that gives us a little bit more ball control in the middle of the park. You might even see Van der Beek start that game or start the Liverpool game, a little bit of kind of rotation. But United need to go there and be good. And this is kind of what it's about now, is that when you play teams like Fulham, the idea is that you beat them in 20 minutes. You don't beat them in 90. You don't risk it. Like, we played West Ham and we had to bring Bruno off the bench and we beat them. And West Ham have been playing well this year. We had to do it in a kind of small kind of time scale because for the rest of the match, we didn't work it out. It was a mess. Yeah. You get to Fulham, the best way to beat them is to score 3 goals in the first 20 minutes. Yes. Yeah? That's the way to beat them. then you'd have your substitutes. You go and have your Bovrils. Yeah, you go and have your snacks. You go and eat your Mars bars, and then you go home and you forget that it even happened. That's how you win titles. That's how you become better. That's how you become a force. That's how we need to treat Fulham. Now, we treat them with respect because that defence is good. But you've got to say, if I'm Ole, I'm saying, do you know what, Bruno? You're my man. Do you know what, Marcus? You're my man as well. But do you know what? You've been crap the last few weeks. Stop being crap. Be yourselves. Go and rip that team to shreds. And do you know what? After 60 minutes, I'll take you off and you can have a rest and get ready for the next game. And United need a little bit more of that, a little bit more ruthlessness when we play teams like Fulham. We showed it, didn't we? Against Burnley is a team that kind of set up low block, long balls over the top. We beat them only 1-0, but 1-0's fine. So even if
we out Burnley type of thing.
We did, yeah, and we've got to fight sometimes. So Fulham are going to say, do you know what? We're going to sit in front of our goal, like United did against Liverpool. Sometimes you have this. You have to go and find a way to score. So Liverpool didn't find a way to score against Man United, so they got a draw out of it. If we draw at Fulham, that's a bad result. So we need to get a win against Fulham, and ideally you keep the kind of momentum going by making it easy. So if you win it, say 3 goals in 20 minutes. I can remember the first season. I don't know why I keep mentioning Ronaldo because I very rarely do, but the first season that Ronaldo really popped. Yeah, I remember being at Old Trafford and we played Fulham, and Fulham were a much better team than they are now. And we scored 4 goals in 25 minutes. And it was the first season that Ronaldo really showed what he was going to become. And Ronaldo and Rooney and they all just ripped them to absolute shreds. It was a nightmare for Fulham. And it was just like, it was devastation. And the game was over after half an hour. And I remember sat there going, this is the kind of game I want to be at every week at Old Trafford. And it was like that for a few years because we just ripped teams to shreds. United can do that. Our attack is good enough to do that to Fulham. And you just got to make sure that you're attacking from the centre-backs. It's got to come from Maguire. It's got to come from Lindelof. It's got to come from Bailly. That's where your attacks start from. Push up to the halfway line, box them in, and kill them. And United needs to do just a little bit more of that. I think we will. I'm hopeful that we'll win this game. A year ago, I'd have been going, not as hopeful. We're not very good against the teams outside the top 10. We're always kind of struggling. Relegation teams make us look bad. That might happen again, but of course we're in a better place now. And Ole needs to figure that out. Ole needs to be the guy that goes, you know what? I'm the coach. Let's find a way of beating Fulham at their own game. If they're going to sit deep, let them sit deep. We'll have the ball in front of them. But you know what, Bruno? Bring it. Marcus, bring it. Score me some goals. Anthony, you've not scored me enough goals. Go and get me some more goals. Demand more of those players. That's what Fergie did. He demanded it of those players. I think Ole does the same. He's the same mindset. He gets in players' ears and he tells them all the good stuff. But he's also, like Ryan Giggs said not so long ago, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is a little bit of a nasty bastard, was the word he used. He will get in your ear and tell you he's not nice. He's not all just inflate you. He will absolutely give you the slap when you need it. And I think there's a few players that just need to kind of just get their balance back. The 2 players that I just mentioned a minute ago.
That is what it is. I understand fully. So are you, because you mentioned there as well, Rob, in terms of the Fulham game being the more important game and the bigger game simply because we want to win the league. And I agree with that. So do you expect to see a stronger sides to say against away at Fulham than the home game against Liverpool? Because you mentioned Donny. Would you expect to see, say, a Donny and more of the fringe players, say a Juan Mata against Liverpool? Or do you expect Ole to... I think Ole's going to play his strongest team in both these games because that seems to be what he does. He'll play Bruno and Rashford. What do you expect to see? And then we're going to go to you, JV.
I think you're right. And I think you've got to decide whether you're playing the opponent or you're playing the moment. Yeah. So there's no doubt that Liverpool is all about the bragging rights. So if you lose to Liverpool, they say, oh, you got to draw at Anfield, but we beat you at Old Trafford. Ha, 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 ha. Everyone cries on Twitter. The world's at an end. Football's over. We don't look at it anymore. We feel sad. We feel like upset and we're kind of back down there. We'll forget that. The most important game out of the 2 is Fulham. That's what's important. If you beat Fulham but lose to Liverpool for whatever reason, under whatever scenario, it doesn't matter because you've got the 3 points. 3 points. We've got to get used to that. Yeah, the 3 points is the cup final every week. Yeah, that's how you win a title. Every 3 points counts. Doesn't matter if it's 3 points at Anfield or 3 points at Fulham. It doesn't matter. What matters is winning every week consistently. That's what good teams do. It's what great teams do. Yeah, you want to beat Liverpool. You expect us to attack Liverpool. But if you lose that game, it's not the end of the world. You know, FA Cups don't pay the bills. I always say this: FA Cups and League Cups are a nice day out at Wembley. Yeah, you get suited and booted. I'm a journalist. You go there, everything looks good. You put your nice hat on, and everyone goes, "Oh, well done, pat on the back." You know, United are in a final. It's just a day out. It doesn't do anything. You don't go to the Man United Museum to look at the League Cup or the FA Cup. You go to look at the Premier Leagues and the European Cups. That's what you go for. That's what this football club is about. So Fulham, under that logic, is the most important game. Go and put them down. Go say, do you know what, Fulham, you're in relegation battle. We're going to play you. We're going to play you twice this year. We're going to take 6 points off you and send you home. And if you go down, tough, because that's our agenda. We're the football club here that we want to win. And I think that's where we are. And I think with United, you're saying about the teams, I think Donny will play minutes. I think he's more likely, as I said, to play the opponent. And that might be that Donny starts the game against Fulham and everyone will be like, oh my God, you know, Bruno needs a rest. So Bruno sits on the bench and maybe comes on later. Like we did against West Ham. That's dangerous because I think if it's not clicking and not, you know, you're not ticking and you're not kind of getting where you want to be, then you might not get the result you want. I'd rather United kind of just go and do the business, play the strongest team in both games, get Bruno on the pitch, win the game in 20 minutes against Fulham, like I said, and in the second half, control it, keep the ball, make it boring. I always say this, make it boring, put it on the deck. If you're 3-0 up, you don't have to chase games. You don't have to be maverick. Put it on the deck, be boring, and keep possession. That's what Man City do. They play for 20 minutes. De Bruyne kills you in 20 minutes, and then the game's over, and they keep the ball for another 70 minutes. That's real football, and I think we can do that against Fulham. That's the idea, but Fulham are better at the moment. I know the guys watching this and the girls will be saying, but it's only Fulham. I've watched them 5 or 6 games in a row now. They're much better than they were than at the start of the season. Start of the season, they looked awful and looked like they were going to get absolutely tanned every week. But now they've sorted it out. Their defense is not quality, but they'll sit in and, you know, Marcus has got to be good. Marcus is in that front line and he's not been good recently, but I think he's carrying a lot. You know, as I said before, he's now the Prime Minister of the country. That's a big weight to carry. Yeah, you know, can you imagine that? Yeah, you're the number 10 of Manchester United and you're literally making government policy. That's weird. That's not real. Yeah, that shouldn't be real. We think Donald Trump is weird. That's the weirdest thing ever, is that Manchester United's number 10, who's a kid still, is running the country. So that's hard. You know, you got to go, you know, I want to be a footballer, but I've got to run the government and I'm not even a Tory. So that's tough. So I have sympathy for Marcus, but I think we just want to see him be a footballer. I want to see him be, you know, he loves United. He's a great footballer. He's come a long way in the last 4 or 5 years since he made that debut. And I think that he's the key. You know, he's the one who'll cut you open because he's got the pace. And also Martial. I believe in Martial still. Those two are the players that I think will really win the United the title. If United win it this year, it will be because those two find a way. And when I say find a way, it means they get 20 goals each a season and they get 15 assists. And if they do that, then Bruno can be the kind of Cantona on the, you know, the icing on the cake and take you over the line with the moments of brilliance and the heart and the kind of, you know, the chasing that he does and all of those things. Get those things right, you'll be all right.
And you know what? That point on Martial there is a point I made. Literally, we've got a player last season who got us 20 plus goals. If he can click in, it will almost be, I don't want to sound cliche, but it will almost be like a new signing because he's not been there this season. Yeah. Do you get what I mean? He becomes, as he was last season, a dependable. He then kind of adds into that Bruno Rashford mold, Pogba mold. Do you know what I mean? Like, if we can get him clicking and then develop a bit more something in the attacking third with all of those players, because if he starts clicking, it then gives the other two something to bounce off. You know what I mean? So it's just more totally. So I honestly think like he could, towards now, at the end of the season, he could get like 10 plus goals, but they could be vital goals. And that's why I think I don't think we can win it because of the manager. But if you say it's up to these players whether we can actually win this title, we do actually have the players who can impact games. Like I'm not afraid of. Like, literally, if you look at that game now, we don't have to be afraid of anyone. We don't have to be afraid of anyone in this league. We should literally look at that now. Like, you know what? We've played all the big teams and everyone's come to us and they've played for a draw or they've been happy with a draw. You know what I mean? Like I said, the only one who's not is Tottenham, but everyone else who's supposedly big has come to us and they've been happy with a draw or a 1-0 penalty and act like they've won the World Cup. Do you get what I mean? So,
and that's the change. That's the change, is that the last 7 years at Old Trafford, teams have been coming to Old Trafford with no fear. So I can remember sat there at work watching the David Moyes team crying, going, this is the worst thing I've seen. You know, we'd been champions the year before. Watch Robin Van Persie score that goal against Aston Villa and win the title and all of this. And then kind of a year on, we were just a 6th, 7th place team, and we were awful. And we've never recovered from those days. And teams would come to Old Trafford, or Bournemouth, let's say Bournemouth, someone like that, and they'd play you off the park. It'd be embarrassing. You'd watch them. They were a better football team. And you think, that's Bournemouth. Their team's worth about 3 million quid and they're better than us. That's changed. There's no doubt. That's what Ole's changed. In 2 years, he's managed to inflate United back to a point with not the greatest signings ever. Like, as I said, we're talking about Palestri's, Diallo's, Cavani's great, obviously, but we're talking about these kind of players that, Maguire at the start of that transformation, that are still not world-class players. But Ole has made teams fear Man United again. And that comes through his tactics. It's because United, you know what? If you make a mistake, United have got so much pace, they're going to kill you. And people understand that now. Whereas years gone by with Mourinho, it was like, well, United are not going to do anything today, so maybe we'll have a go at them. Van Gaal's United were so slow, pass the ball sideways. So it's like, well, this is boring, this is terrible. But it also wasn't good football. Whereas Ole has got United actually playing some good football. Yes, there's also still some junk in there because they're trying to sort stuff out. We're having better quality of footballer and they need to sign players, no doubt about it. But overall, what you're saying is absolutely right. There is a bit more of a fear factor now. Fulham won't be going, oh, yeah, do you know what? We fancy it. They won't. They'll be going, we need to stop United. Now, that's a change. In years gone by, it was horrible. Teams were coming after us all the time because we were bad. For 6-7 years, we were a bad football team that were probably about 7th or 8th in the title race. You've got to remember this one more thing. It's just that we talked about Liverpool and Klopp earlier on. The first season at Liverpool, when Jurgen Klopp was at Liverpool, where did they come first season? Do you guys know? Can you remember?
Was it like 8th? Or something
8th.
like that?
They came 8th. That's how bad they were. They were a mid-table team. No, they came 8th, right? This is how it's worked with Liverpool, They went 8th, 4th, 4th, 2nd, 1st. Yeah, now they won a European Cup in there somewhere as well. Yeah, obviously 2 years before, 2 years before that. So, but that's progress. Yeah, over time, Ole's kind of movement looks similar. He's not Jurgen Klopp, but I think what he's done is he's fixed the really bad bits that stop you from winning every week, and that is whether you've got confidence in your defense or whether your fullbacks do a little bit more. I keep saying Anthony Martial. I'm not a huge fan of Anthony Martial, but for me, he's the number one striker. Yeah, and the reason is this. Is that we spent 2 years developing him as a number 9. And last year, his stats were as good as any number 9 in the Premier League. Yeah. Goals, assists. He can run in behind. He can hold the ball up. He can play the channel. He can do all those things technically. This year, he's not been as good. We've had Cavani, obviously, in there. But you've got to stick with him. And you've got to say to the boy, do you know what? You did it last year. You slap him on the backside and say, do it again. Because if you don't, then you're not going to be in the team. So I think he understands. I think footballers always do. And I don't think he's done anything yet that makes me think, because he's not scored a few goals, that he's not going to score again. He will score again. Keep him as your number 9. Tell him you've got faith in him and say, hey, do you know what? That guy on the bench there, that Cavani, is pretty good, I'll play him if you don't sort yourself out. And I think that's okay. I think that's football. Yeah. That's exactly, that's the fight you want. He wants competition. Competition makes you better. We've just said that on this show. And I think he'll be fine. And I think Fulham is a good test against him because they'll be deep. He can play off them a little bit. He only needs one shot to hit that target, go in the top corner. Do you know what I mean? If he hits the winner against Liverpool, it's all over, isn't it? We kind of go, it's not that he's rubbish again. It's just like, he hit the winner and that's that. You just need that one moment. I think he'll be fine. Same with Marcus, same with Bruno. They'll have their moments. They've just got to make sure United keep getting 3 points. Don't worry about the FA Cup. If you get through that, great. 3 points every week. And then you get to the end of the season, you keep doing that, you win the title. Lads, if we win every league game to the end of the season, guess who the champions are? Simple.
There you go.
It's that easy, winning every game, and it's simple as that.
That's what it's about.
Do you know what it is? We could use the old school. I call it the Fergie formula, and I've said this for a long time, where you batter everyone else, similar to what you just said. When you beat the bottom 10. But this is what I think Fergie always used to do. We'd batter everyone else, and it comes to like the top 5, 6, and we win half the games against them, and we draw half of the games against them. And by the end of the season, that's your title.
That's exactly how it works. That's exactly how it works. And this is why I think Darren Fletcher's come to the football club, because Darren Fletcher is known as a thinker. Yeah. Outside, in the football circles, he's known as a technician. Now, as a player, he wasn't great. He wasn't Xavi. He wasn't Iniesta. He wasn't kind of these kind of ball playing players. What he was good at was tactical things. That's why Fergie used him. So Fergie would put him in a tactical role and say, today, go and stop that player for me. Go and make sure we don't lose this game. And then he'd pop up with a goal every now and then. Every kind of like 12 weeks, Darren Fletcher would go and get you the winner. And it'd be like, whoa, Darren Fletcher's not very good. But hey, he went and got that header. I can remember against Man City at Old Trafford. 2 headers, where he arrives at the late at the far post. And people are like, that reminds me of Roy Keane. And it's like, because he played with Roy Keane. He knows what he has to do there. He might not be Roy Keane, but he knows what to do. And I think when you saw Darren Fletcher the other day in the United jacket, everyone was like, old boys club and all of this crap. It's not real, You don't hire someone just because you like them. You hire them because you think they actually can do the job. And I think with Ole, he wants people around him like that. Michael Carrick is in that job because Michael Carrick's a thinker. When we signed Michael Carrick as a player, I remember for a year everyone going, he's awful, he's terrible. And I'd be like, no, he's a good player. He's a good player. Most people were. They went, he's a water carrier. He's a water carrier. And you go, what? But hey, Chelsea got Didier Deschamps, who's a water carrier, and they're winning things. So United did need a water carrier at that time, someone who could screen and play in front of the back four. And you'd say that you maybe want one now. But Michael Carrick was technically and tactically an immense footballer. He could think around the game. Darren Fletcher's the same. I like this. I see it in the team. I see the coaching comes from thinking, not from drills, not from doing this. Like it's actual real football, like things are happening and they're playing styles of football that you go, 12 months ago, I didn't think we could do that. I didn't think these players could do this and get to the top of a table and keep winning matches. Now they have to do it against Fulham. That's the most important thing. That's the only thing that matters. Liverpool's afterwards. Forget Liverpool. We're not thinking about that. Go and win the game. Darren Fletcher, I think, is a big addition to that backroom team because you need people who know how United used to win. I think that's important. Success is a habit. You don't just win things. You have to every day. Phil Neville said today, he's got his new job at Miami, and he said a really great quote. He said, at Manchester United, when I was a player there, we always tried to win 7 days a week, not on a Saturday. Yeah, and that's true. You go to training to win, to beat whoever you're training against. And that's the mentality. Darren Fletcher's that kind of guy. He had to fight hard to be a Man United player because he had all of that. Scott McTominay has got to fight really hard to be a Man United player. That's good. Fight hard. Show that. Let your other teammates know that you're going to be a warrior. Warriors are a good thing for a football team.
Yeah, they're needed. People act like you need, I don't know if it's Manchester City and recency bias, because people act like you need 22 world-class players to win a league title. And we spoke on Liverpool and their bench. You wouldn't swap their bench for anything. Manchester United teams of the past, you wouldn't. Even Arsenal, it's not like they had 22 world-class players. So people get it mistaken that you need that. Like I've said, the issue, I think, why McTominay gets a lot of stick is because he's being used as a first teamer. And to me, I don't mind him as a squad player. But the fact he's being used as a first teamer, people are judging him as a first teamer. And I think that's unfair on him because I just don't think he's up to that standard. I put Lingard in the same bracket. That's why, to me, Lingard could still do a job as a squad player. But I don't think he's a first teamer. But because he was used as a first teamer and we're seeing you week in, week out, we're seeing your deficiencies. We spoke on Burnley. We see him, the Nemanja Matic, come in and do a job in that game. To me, that's Nemanja Matic. I put him in that bracket as well. The problem is when you are using squad players week in, week out, you see their weaknesses, you see their deficiencies, and we have a reactionary fan base as it is. Obviously, you're on Twitter as well, Rob. So you see it even with the Anfield game, like people, Bruno, was he good? No, he wasn't.
We have 3 players at starters at Man United. 3. That's all we got. Yeah. Bruno, Marcus, and when he's playing well, Paul Pogba. But even Paul Pogba doesn't always start every game, depending on what we're doing. The rest are squad players. Scott McTominay is just every much a squad player as Cavani, as Martial, as David De Gea now. David De Gea is not even really kind of, now you're looking at Henderson in the bracket, it's 1 of 2. That's how it is, yeah? Henderson's going to take his place one day. Might not be today, but one day Henderson's going to take that role and he's never going to get back into the team. That's how it works. So I don't mind Scott McTominay playing in a double pivot when I want the double pivot to go and kick people up in the air and chase them. Scott McTominay was a big reason why we beat PSG on their own football pitch. Yeah, Scott McTominay,
yes, he was good.
Tuanzebe and Aaron Wan-Bissaka, those three players on the right-hand side got to Neymar and said, "You ain't doing anything today, boy." So I think we have to kind of give everyone more respect and kind of say, do you know what? Yeah, if you prove it, great. You know, you're giving the ball away loads today and that annoys me. Fred's giving the ball away. That annoys me. But do you know what? We won 1-0 or we won 2-0. It's about winning. And I just think that's the thing. I don't care about starters. I think we have to be careful that in this kind of FIFA generation where we're all kind of got our best 11s in our head and we kind of go, oh, I want my team to run. And, you know, Scott McTominay is only rated 62 and I don't want him in my team because in real life he annoys me, he gives the ball away. What? That stuff doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What matters is that in training, as I said, he's putting his head in front of that ball and he's getting his head kicked off his shoulders. And the manager's going, do you know what? I can trust this boy. You know, it might not be the best, but I can trust him. He's not my Busquets. Yeah, in my team behind Xavi and Iniesta at Barcelona. But you know what? He's going to give me minutes. He's going to fight hard. I think he'll be a centre-back one day. I think that's kind of the way we look at him, that he can technically play with the ball at his feet in those areas. He's really good at sniffing danger. He's good at tracking. I think he could be a centre-back one day. It might not be today, but he plays centre-back for Scotland. I've watched him play for Scotland really closely. He's really good at centre-back. He's really good. He guards really well. He can do that. And then he's got nothing behind him to guard because that's the thing of being a midfielder. You've got all that space behind you. And I think he could be an option at centre-back one day. Don't know that's 100%, but let's see. I think we give Scotty the credit that he deserves. I think it's the same with Fred. There's a reason why Van der Beek ain't playing. And it's because the players around him are just playing better or just training a little bit better. It's just what it is. And Ole don't do favours for anyone. He's a hard taskmaster. He doesn't let anyone start in that team if they don't deserve it. And that's the kind of manager I want. I think Mourinho didn't do that, you see. I think Mourinho had his favourites, did whatever he wanted. You know, like Lukaku wouldn't play well and Lukaku would play 50 games. You go, okay, can you not drop him for one game, you know, and try something else? No, it wasn't the case, you know, because he had his favourites. And he does that at Tottenham, doesn't he? You know, he's got that at Spurs. He has his favourites. And then there's other players that can't get in the team because of how he wants to play his style of football. I don't think Ole does that. I think Ole lets the kind of form dictate some more stuff. And I think with Scotty, I think he deserves his spot at the moment. I'm not going to label him a first teamer or not a first teamer. He's in our squad. Dan James, there's loads coming out of the football club that Dan James has kind of gone on in training, like really improved in the last 6 weeks. And that's why Dan James has started to feature a little bit more, because Ole's looked at him and said, if you're in my squad and you're doing a tiny bit more and I'm happy and you're progressing and you're not as kind of as daft as you were last year, then I might give you some minutes. That's all right. Because that means, again, people are getting better levels, move up tiny bits. And we get there, don't we? Eventually, it's working. We're top of the league.
You know what? I have noticed that a little bit with Dan James. I think he came on a game and I seen him try to pass through the lines, and I thought, I've never seen him do that before.
Totally.
Never, ever. Like, and that's probably him saying he knows he's not probably the best crosser, but there's still a way to affect the game. And that is one thing I always said about Ole. Use this kid. If you can get something out of this kid with his pace, with his stamina, because for me, if you could get Dan James constantly just going at a right back or a left back for a full game, he will get you a goal because he's got the stamina to go with it, which I think a lot of wingers don't have that. They don't want to actually go at the defender. A lot of wingers want to cut in now. And that's right. I think he could actually be an asset. I just don't think he has the brain, the football brain that we needed when we first bought him. When we first bought him, we needed him to be the first team winger. And that's unfair because we had got him from Swansea and he had probably never even played 100 games yet in his career. Or even
he played nothing. He literally played nothing. He played a year kind of in a championship level and all of that. But I'm the same with Dan James, is that, you know, I'm not that hot on him. Don't think he's that great. I think he's all right. I think that he's really quick. And I think that if you could teach him several different tactical outlays of what you want a right-sided or a left-sided player to do, and you can get him to run the channel, which he can because he's ultra fast, then he can be useful. And the whole idea is that you don't play him like first season he played like 35 games, like off the bench or starting matches. Like you said, it was unfair, but that was where United were at that point. They'd just taken Mourinho's mess and they had to try and find a way to be validated again. So Dan James was part of that little bit of rebuilding that season. But yeah, it's about saying to Dan James, you know what? Yeah, I do believe in you. And if you train with these guys, if you use your pace correctly, you can do what Marcus does. You can run that channel because you are quick. You can do what Mason was doing last season. You can kind of come inside a little bit more. So again, Dan James for Wales always looks really good for Wales because he's given that option and opportunity to do it. And he never looked bad. He can't really cross a ball, but United don't play that game much anyway. But he could do other things off the bench. And if you have him on the bench for 10, 15, 20 minutes in a match, I think Ole said last year, he is our best defensive attacker. And people quaffed at that and went, what do you mean? And he went, no, when I need someone to chase, Dan James is the best on that 4-2-3-1 on a right or a left to chase back into position because he's quick and he means it and he's kind of aggressive, whereas the other guys don't. We know Anthony Martial plays on the left. He's not chasing all the way. He's kind of going a little bit. Paul Pogba the same on the right, chasing most of the way, but maybe not going all the way. Dan James will act like a fullback in those moments. So now I'm good with it. And I look at our squad. There's no one in the squad where I think, oh, do you know what? If you got rid of them tomorrow, you're better. I think it's just let's keep building. Let's keep buying players that do the right things. Let's go get your Ruben Neveses. Let's go and get players like that. And if you lose Pogba in the middle, you might have to try and buy a superstar somewhere along the lines. But it is what it is, isn't it? You've just got to keep going and just hoping that you get victories off the back of it. Fulham is a decent test for United because it's about mentality, I think, rather than who's the better football team. We're the better football team. We know that. Yeah. It's about going there and hurting them. 3 goals in 30 minutes. Let's all go home, pack up. Then you can think about Liverpool straight away. That's what the good teams do. That's what City do or have done. That's what Liverpool have done, certainly last season. That's where Man United need to be. And Ole's been there. You forget. He's won everything as a person, as a player. He knows how to win. Now we might look at him. Do you know what he does? He plays the fool really well. He bumbles and goes, and do you know what? It's because he doesn't give 2 hoots. He don't want to talk to the press. He doesn't want to talk to us. He's not interested in that. Mourinho loves to talk to the press. Yes. Ole doesn't care. Ole talks to his players, and I want a manager that does that, talks to his players, not talking to me as a journalist or fan channels or whoever. So football fans, go and bumble your way through that, and then go and hammer your team in the dressing room. And we know that he does that. We've been told very reliably that's the kind of player kind of guy that he is. He's a hard taskmaster.
Yo, JV, I know you got a dip and that, so I'll let you say your blessings to the people and everything. Go on, family.
Yeah. So gotta go, people. Business calls. But yeah. Blessed to have you on the show, Rob. Love to have you.
No worries.
I'll be tuning in.
We'll do it again.
To your next show. Oh,
yeah, the reason why we do the masterclass, just before you go, I'll tell you, is because I wanted to do a show. Me and Haydar do it. We wanted to do a show that is about the nuance of football. Yeah, because football is all about nuance. Football ain't about FIFA. I keep saying this. Football ain't Football Manager. I know we do it and everyone plays it and we're all into it. It's not fantasy football either. It's about nuance, about the tiny little things in positions and what you're learning and how you apply that. And luckily, as a journalist, I have a little bit more insight in terms of United. I know people at the club are kind of can have different kind of conversations. I try and convey that in our podcast. We talk about player development, and it's always along the line. I don't have favourites. I have 2 favourites, Eric Cantona and Brian Robson. They're my only favourites in the whole history of me supporting Man United, and no one else, Giggs, Scholes, Beckham, whoever, none of them mean anything to me in here. They're the only 2 players because they were the 2 players that took United somewhere on their own. Whereas I look at everyone else and I think like that now. I like Bruno. I really do. I think he's a great player. I'd love it. I love him being at Man United. But you've got to prove it every week. And that's what our podcast is about. Prove every week. We talk about the nuances. No favourites. We don't hammer people. We don't put guns to their heads. We don't act like, talk about the Arsenal TV thing. I ain't going to do that to Ole. If Ole's going to do that, he's going to do it himself, isn't he? Just the same at Arsenal with Arteta. If he gets it wrong and blows his own brains out, then it's over and you can go and get your next manager and do it all again. But I don't want to do it at United. I just think that Ole's he's earned it now, the time, because he's top of the league and he's proved that he can get here. And that was a big jump where we didn't think he could. And I think that's a good thing. Give him time, give him to the end of the season, and then we can talk again. At the end of the season, you can kind of say, I was happy with what happened or I wasn't happy. And then you can decide if you want a new manager or not. There's not that many managers out there, guys. Like, who would you take?
Me now, who I'd take. Now Poch has disappeared. I'd personally go with Allegri. But JV, I know you have to dip. And Rob has mentioned this podcast. It's in the YouTube link. So make sure you can still watch the show, people. And
everyone,
make sure you subscribe. You know what I'm saying? Go on.
Make sure you go and follow what Rob's doing. Yeah, everyone, make sure you go and follow what Rob's doing. He spoke.
JV's inspired, man. JV's
inspired me. I believe in Ollie now. I'm going that far. But yeah, nice one, Rob. Yeah,
no worries, man. Have a good one.
Big up, but yeah, man, big up to everybody in the comments. Just Rob stayed. We still an hour and 45 minutes in. Any questions you have for us, let us know. Rob, if you do need to dip off at any point, let us know.
Let's go for it. Let's do it.
Yeah,
let's wrap it and do what we talk to the people who are watching the show. Thanks for joining in.
Yeah, man, big up to everyone who has locked in. Big up my little bro ads. Big up everyone else. Make sure if you're watching this live or you're watching this back right now, you hit the like button on the video. Make sure you share it across all your socials and you subscribe to the channel Sarcasm City TV. Make sure when you subscribe, you hit the notification bell also. And this podcast, an audio of a podcast on Sarcasm City TV, are available on audio-only platforms. So you can listen on the SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you listen to podcasts, just type in Sarcasm City. And that's underneath every YouTube vid. The links are there. So underneath this YouTube video, SoundCloud, Spotify, and iTunes links are all there. And subscribe to Rob's channel. And make sure also you follow him _Rob_B on Twitter. And you can find everything there once you follow him. Like I said, big up Monster in the comments as well. Big up to Monster. And yeah, man, Rob, we appreciate having you over here. I told you, lot, man, Reverend Rob, when he talks, just shut up and listen. Literally that. This is the quietest you're ever going to hear me on podcasts is when I'm on live streams with Rob. Simply because when he's talking from a knowledgeable place, being a journalist that he is, being in these spaces. So yeah, man, sometimes you just got to shut up and listen. But anything you want to add, Rob, before we do wrap the show up?
No, thanks for having me on. And that's kind of how I do it. I kind of make sure that I've been a fan my whole life of Man United. Yeah, since I was a kid. Very lucky to see all those trophies under Fergie, but also remember the times under Ron Atkinson before and how bad it was. And I grew up being told that Manchester United were a big football club that never won anything. That's kind of what I was taught by my own family who are United fans. And that was how it was. And kind of maybe perspective is something that we may be short of in the Twitter years, is that everything is so instantaneous and we like to forget quickly and we move on so fast. But moving on's fine, but only when you have to. If something that's where you are and you have to move on, it doesn't work, like we did with Mourinho, like we did with Van Gaal. It was the right time. I don't think it's the right time for Ole. And I always say this, I'm not Ole in and I'm not Ole out. That's my catchphrase. I'm neither. What I mean, I want Man United to win. I'm Man United in. That's what I want to see. I want to see United winning football matches. If United are competing at the top, then I'm happy. I'm content. Then you push on to the next thing, maybe play a slightly better, more kind of progressive football, or be a little bit more Man United, or, show a little bit more. And I think we have seen that, but it's going to take time, and it might not be till the next player arrives or the next two players arrive. You might go and get an Upamecano next summer and go, we've just gone up a level again. You might find it. You might try and, railroad Real Madrid and get Alaba, someone like that. There's always opportunities to go and get.
I'd like Alaba.
I'd love Alaba, but he's still open. That deal isn't done, so it's not done to Real Madrid yet. Whatever people tell you, so that's still open. So there's players for Man United to go and get who make you better, and then you have a good squad already now, a squad that kind of is competing with each other and pushing you on to the next level. So top of the league. That's where we want to be. And if you're in that conversation, I didn't think we would be anywhere near this at the moment. I thought we'd be 4th, 5th, 6th at this time of the season. I thought Ole might be on the brink of, people then actually pulling that trigger and saying, we've had enough. 6 is not good enough. But he's got us to the top of the table and he's done it his way. Yeah, he hasn't done it. He hasn't done it to anyone else. He's not kind of tried to be Pep. He's not tried to be Klopp. He's tried to be Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. That's the way to do it. Is be yourself.
I say this all the time. Die on your sword.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. You judge him by what happens. Don't judge him on what you think. Don't always just think because you don't like him. Same with the Luke Shaw complex. Yeah, Luke Shaw might not be your cup of tea, but be careful in case you kill him, because if you kill him and he does it, you're going to look stupid. And there's a lot of people at the moment that look a little bit silly because they got on that whole hype train of like, let's cut Luke Shaw's throat and all of this. You've got to say to a player, if you've got 10, 15, 20 games, you've got to go and prove it. And Luke Shaw's taken like 4 years to get to this level, 5 years, and 1 or 2 really bad injuries. That's part of his story. But it's the same for Pogba. It's the same even for Marcus when he came through. You have dips, you play well, you can do some stuff. Manti Martial's played 2 or 3 different positions. Now he's a number 9. Yeah. You've got to give players time. Give them time. Give them your love. You know what I mean? They want your love. They don't want you to hate them. You know, they don't train every day and go, I hope, you know, if I have a bad game, United people are going to hate me. You know, these fans are going to hate me and get on my social media and kill me. Why? Why'd you do that? What's all that about? You know, give it up. You don't have to be angry when there's nothing to be angry about. You know, just let it ride. Just be who you are. So I think that's where we are. It's a good place for Man United at the moment. Because when you're winning, everything's good.
That's it, though. And I think people's anger comes towards Luke Shaw. With me, it's over a period of time. Like, I'm not just gonna, you're signing, like Tellez, for instance. I've seen people talk about Tellez defensively. I'm like, Tellez not being good defensively. He's not even started 10 Premier League games for us. How do we know he's not good enough defensively yet? I'm like, let's give him time to succeed or fail. But we're going to find out.
Yeah, like I said in my podcast the other day, if Luke Shaw carries on playing like this, Tellez plays in the Carling Cup or, you know, in the Carabao Cup, and that's it, nothing else, because Luke Shaw is playing at an elite level at the moment. Whether people like it or not, he's playing at an elite level, going, look at his numbers. His numbers are absolutely there. So that's what you want, and you'd rather he continued that. And if that means Tellez goes and sits on the bench, that's the way it is. Same with Pogba. Pogba's playing well. There's no need to think about Van der Beek. Van der Beek has to get Pogba out that team. You know, Van der Beek has to look at Bruno and go, right, this boy's winning like 4 Premier League awards, Player of the Month out of 6. That's the standard. That's the standard. Go and be that player. But you've got to do it. You can't just get it back. So that's what I say. I always say, like with Luke Shaw, it's not about favoritism. I don't think he's the best fullback in the world. But if he's doing the job and he's actually returning the numbers and United are winning, then I'm good with that. But you're still getting people going, oh, I don't like him. Oh, he's fat. Oh, he's this, he's slow. All this trash. Yeah. And it's all that trash is about kind of reaffirm people's opinions as opposed to being fact. So it's about how I feel about something as opposed to reality. So I think there's a lot of that United is that kind of a lot of our players, they're not all going to be there in the next 2 years. They probably will get phased out, some of them, you know, the Jessies and players like that. And if Donny doesn't do it, he might be one of those players that doesn't make the cut, but I think he will. That's how it is as football. Natural turnovers. Let's just try and do the best we can with what we've got and hope United actually go and buy the right players, because that's been the problem for 7 years.
We have them recently, though.
Yeah.
How
did you feel when we signed Di Maria and Falcao on the last transfer? How did you feel? I felt good. Yeah, and I can remember being at Old Trafford and watching those early games and going, "This is it. This is where we were back. We're back. We weren't back for anything. We were awful. We were rubbish. Yeah, I don't think we're awful anymore. I still think there's work to do, but I like it that there is a togetherness about the team. You see where they score goals. They love each other. They're friends. Yeah, they want a fight for each other, and that's good because we've had a load of mercenaries at our football club for 7 years, and I actually think we've now got a football team. You know, and that's kind of like, that's a good thing. That's on OLE.
Yeah, the squad harmony's there. That's one. And I think the issue is that people have with your Luke Shaws is we know that the form is there, that we're looking at it now. Like, where's this Luke Shaw been? Like, I'm not asking you to be amazing because I don't think you are. I'm just asking you to do the basics. Like, for instance, the run he made at Anfield when he got fouled for the free kick, that type of thing is like, where's this been? The cross he made when was away at Everton for the Bruno equaliser. It's like, where's this been? Him driving forward to win the penalty away at PSG. Those type of things. Obviously, he plays better with competition. And I think that's where it stems from. And the same with Donny. The same is with Donny is that people want more progressive football. So I think people have just seen Scotty Mac too many times. And I think that's where the issue lies with him. Because I don't think to play Donny in all the games, you don't necessarily... People would like to see all 3 of them. And there is certain formations you could do where you could play Bruno, Pogba, and Donny. It doesn't have to be Donny or Pogba. It can be him in addition to them. And that's where every game, no, of course not. But the certain games I look at and I'm like, we could definitely play Donny in there with Bruno and Pogba. If Bruno's not playing well and needs a rest, play him ahead of him or Pogba or whoever.
Yeah. But the stakes are high. Yeah, the stakes are high. And that's the problem, is that if the stakes are so high and you can have some rotation, so you might rotate 1 out or 2 out, The problem is Man United fans again live in this kind of fancy football realm in their heads, and it's like, well, let's change him and him and him and give him a rest and give him a rest and give him a rest, and suddenly we've changed 11 and it's great. And do you know what we want to see? Henderson in goal and De Gea off you go for a few weeks, go and have a holiday. This is not reality. Yeah, this is not how it works. And like you said at the start earlier on, we talked about the 2 games to come. Is that Ole's probably going to play his best 2 teams in those 2 games? Because if he loses one of them, the fan channels go mad and they start ripping him again. And then Sky Sports go mad and they start putting up stats about how terrible he is and how he's lost X amount of games. Or, you know, United, someone said to me the other day, this league is false. I mean, what do you mean the league's false? Well, it's not a real league. It's like, well, do you know what? The one thing that never lies is the league table. It never lies. Yeah, you can't lie. The league table tells you the truth of where every team is because it's based on statistics and facts. 3 points for a win. And you can't be top of the league if you're kind of faking it. You can't be. It's impossible. So you might not be as good as people think you are. That's a different thing. But you are good enough to be where you are at that moment in time because you've earned it. You've got there in that moment. And I think with Ole, that's how I would feel if I was him. You know, if I'm looking at it, they get 2 things flawless, like, really important. They get the sports science report, yeah, which is the health report about who is where in their fitness, yeah. All the players are monitored all the time and where they are. And then obviously you get your tactical analysis of the team that you're playing. And the most important thing is that those 2 things mesh and work. And that is why Ole picks teams. Ole will have the next 8 games in his head planned out, ideally about who he plays. And do you know what? If Scott McTominay's the guy who's going to go and chase a really good elite central midfielder, let's say Everton, yeah? If you've got Richarlison dropping off there, who do you want chasing him? Do you want Donny van der Beek chasing him, Fred, or Scott McTominay? Well, you're probably not going to pick Donny out of those 3. Probably not. You're going to pick one of the other 2. Because they're the 2 that the health report will be telling you have got the fitness to go and do that job. So that's one thing I always feel that football fans don't look at because they don't see it. Yeah. And I always say one other thing is that you might have an ideal 11 in your head, but you don't see the guys in training. You don't see what they're doing. So you're always going to be disappointed. It's very rare that you get the first 11 right because it's just on your thoughts, not reality. And Ole sees them in training. And he gets that health report. That health report says so much about fitness. That's why Paul Pogba's been sat on the bench, just not been ready, not been fit.
Yeah, because you can see he's not fit. He had COVID and things like that.
Totally. So now you see the last 2 games, Pogba looks fit, doesn't he? And it's taken 6 weeks, 8 weeks to get him fit. Marcus Rashford broke his back last year, then had a bad injury and didn't come back for a long time. And it's taken him a really long time to get the elite fitness back because that is how long it takes when you're a sportsman. It's a really, really tough job. You know, you got to work like a dog. So it takes time. And that's the other thing I think that fans maybe don't dial into week to week to week. You know, Tuanzebe not played as many games as people want because he's still on that journey to fitness. Eric Bailly didn't play against Liverpool because he's played like 4 or 5 games in a row. You know, boy's made of paper. Yeah, bits of him fall off every 2 or 3 weeks. So you've got to look after him. And that's why he didn't start against Liverpool. But hey, he will start other games because it's about keeping his fitness going. And that health report will be telling Ole all of that stuff, the real technical bits that you don't see in press conferences and you don't see kind of on the internet because it's not open information that maybe, you know, again, like a fan channel, guys can watch us, can't they? You know, guys and girls can dial in and talk about our opinions. That's cool. But we can only tell you those bits that maybe we see. Do you know what I mean? We can't tell you the whole picture. And it does also mean that football managers do make mistakes. You know, they can be a team, it goes wrong. And we're now talking about Jurgen Klopp, aren't we? Oh, you know, should Jurgen Klopp have done this? You know, is his front three ticking? You know, he did have centre-backs for that game the other day, by the way. You know, like people think he didn't have centre-backs. He chose to play 2 central midfielders there. He has got centre-backs in his squad, but he just thought those 2 would be better at dealing with United's front line, and he was right. You know, they did all right. So it's not a problem. But I tell you what, if Henderson gets skinned by Marcus and United win that game 1-0, everyone will be saying, that was a bad choice. Why did you play Jordan Henderson at centre-back? So fine margin. Fine margin.
Live by your decisions.
Live and die by your decisions. 100%, mate.
But like I said, in it, I told you, man, sermons, Reverend Rob, I told you lot this in it, but hit the like button, make sure you share, make sure you subscribe to Sarcasm City TV. Like I said, in the YouTube, in the title as well, you can subscribe to Rob's channel and you can find him on Masterclass. Salute to everyone who's locked in. It's almost been 2 hours. Yo, we appreciate it, Rob. much love for coming on. Like, much appreciated. Thank you very much.
It's been fun, mate.
Yeah, man, I've enjoyed. I could talk football with you for hours. And yes, people, this has been the ManDem United podcast on Saturday.